Chapter 1333. After the old man appeared, he did not even greet Duan Lingtian. Instead, he pounced on him ruthlessly. It was obvious he wanted to kill Duan Lingtian in one hit. The 7-foot-long spear in his hand was shooting out a spear ray that was several feet long. It caused the air to tremble, as though it could pierce through everything. Boom, 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 boom. As the sound of air exploding reverberated in the air, the spear ray that was several feet long appeared in front of Duan Lingtian. In just a blink of an eye, it looked like it was going to pierce through Duan Lingtian's body. Oh no! The moment the old man struck with his spear, Duan Lingtian had already regained his senses. However, before he could react, the spear ray that shot out from the old man's 7-foot-long spear had already arrived in front of him. It was only a foot away from him. He had no time to dodge at all. Bang! A loud bang reverberated in the air, accompanied by a rolling shockwave that swept out in all directions. The top and the surroundings were still fine, but the sea below was turbulent. The originally calm sea seemed to have been smashed by a huge rock. Waves splashed up and shot up into the sky. It was a beautiful sight against the scorching sun. However, regardless of whether it was Duan Lingtian or the old man who suddenly appeared, they were not in the mood to watch this. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was sent flying by a stone tablet, like an arrow that was shot out from a bow. The moment the stone tablet landed on his body, a terrifying energy passed through the stone tablet and landed on his body. It caused his lungs to tremble, and he felt intense pain all over his body. If it was not for his strong will, he would have fainted. Duan Lingtian, who was sent flying spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood, finally caught his breath. He immediately took out a royal-grade resurrection pill and consumed it. The pill's effect dissipated, and his injuries started to heal. However, due to the severity of his injuries, he could not fully recover even after consuming the royal-grade resurrection pill. At this speed, I'll need at least 30 breaths to fully recover. I'll have to stall for time. Duan Lingtian's thoughts spun as he made his decision. Thanks to you. Duan Lingtian's gaze quickly landed on the Devil Seal tablet that flew out with him. Earlier, it was he who had taken out the Devil Seal tablet in time and allowed it to block the spear for him. If not for that, he would have been killed. After flying for some distance, Duan Lingtian finally came to a halt. He looked at the old figure who caught up with him immediately and mocked. The second island master of the Hidden Fog Island sneakily attacked a nobody like me. Don't you think it's embarrassing? As long as I can kill you and avenge my son. So what if I become the laughingstock of the world? The old man who sneaked an attack on Duan Lingtian was the second island master of Hidden Fog Island, Chen Bei. Ever since Tang Zhen, the first island master of the Hidden Fog Island, had led the people back to the Hidden Fog Island, Chen Bei had wanted to kill Duan Lingtian to avenge his son. He thought the first island master would not interfere at that time. However, he did not expect Duan Lingtian to stay on Half Moon Island. Moreover, he heard that there was a mysterious young lady by Duan Lingtian's side who could kill the first island master of Coral Island with a piece of yellow paper that was filled with scribbles. The first island master of Coral Island's ability was on par with the first island master of Hidden Fog Island. At that moment he felt the pressure. However, he still came to Half Moon Island. He had arrived at Half Moon Island a few days ago. Today, he finally found a chance to ensure that the young lady by Duan Lingtian's side would not appear. I didn't expect you to have a defensive spirit weapon. You're lucky, but next time, your luck won't be so good. Chen Bei sneered. Chen Bei, do you know why I killed your son? Duan Lingtian asked in a deep voice. He needed time to recover from his injuries. Otherwise, he would not be a match for Chen Bei. Chen Bei, the second island master of Hidden Fog Island, was on Emperor Wu's stage 8th level. Although his ability had improved by leaps and bounds in the past 6 months to the point that even Han Shu and I were shocked, it was impossible for him to fight Chen Bei with his injured body. I don't care why you killed my son. Today will be the day you, Duan Lingtian, die. A cold gleam flashed across Chen Bei's eyes. He shook the 7-foot-long spear in his hand, and a terrifying origin energy swept out. Along with the skyrocketing profundity energy, it caused the air to tremble. The movement of the spear shook the air. It was like a stone falling into a calm lake, setting off circles of ripples. How powerful! Upon seeing that, Duan Lingtian was secretly shocked. As expected of the second island master of Hidden Fog Island, Chen Bei's ability is top-notch, even among the 8th level Emperor Wu stage martial artists. Although the heaven and earth energy would no longer consolidate into the heaven and earth phenomenon after leaving Cloud Continent, Duan Lingtian could faintly sense how terrifying Chen Bei's ability was. Chen Bei, before your son died, he told me something. Do you want to know? Duan Lingtian gasped inwardly when he saw Chen Bei was about to attack. However, he maintained a calm expression on his face as he spoke slowly. It was Duan Lingtian's calmness that stopped Chen Bei from attacking. What is it? The cold gleam in Chen Bei's eyes remained. He raised his eyebrows and asked in a deep voice. Chen Bei, you should at least show some sincerity if you want to know your son's last words, right? You look like you're about to kill me. I'm so scared that I can't even remember what your son said. Duan Lingtian glanced at the 7-foot-long spear in Chen Bei's hand and said, Why? Are you trying to stall for time? Chen Bei smirked. It's useless. Even if you release the communication jade slip, and I can't catch up with it, I'm confident I can kill you before that little girl arrives. Stall for time? Communication jade slip? Duan Lingtian shook his head. Chen Bei, I have to say that your imagination is really rich. Do you think I don't know what you're talking about? Spit it out if you have something to say. Chen Bei snorted. His eyes stared deadly at Duan Lingtian. Don't play tricks in front of me. If you do anything, I'll kill you in an instant. I believe you have the ability. However, you should at least give me some time to think about it, right? Duan Lingtian said nonchalantly. Currently 10 breaths had passed. The injuries in his body had healed by 1/3. The royal grade resurrection pill's medicinal effect was still spreading and healing the injuries in his body. His injuries were recovering at an extremely fast speed. He still needed close to 20 breaths to recover to his prime. The surface of the sea that was initially turbulent gradually regained its calm. High up in the sky, Duan Lingtian stood there quietly with a slight frown on his face. He seemed to be thinking about something. Meanwhile, Chen Bei, who was standing opposite him, was glaring at him. He was afraid Duan Lingtian would play some trick on him. Chen Bei held the 7-foot-long spear tightly in his hand. Faint origin energy was about to burst out. If anything went wrong, he would instantly unleash his full force to kill Duan Lingtian. My patience is limited. Another 10 breaths passed. Chen Bei's face turned grave as he said coldly, Wait a little longer. Duan Lingtian's frown deepened. He could not be bothered with Chen Bei's gloomy expression. His injuries were only a little bit away from being healed. Once he was fully healed, he would have the strength to fight with Chen Bei. In the past 6 months, his strength had improved in all aspects. He wanted to see how much his strength had improved. He treated Chen Bei as his touchstone. The last 10 breaths passed in the blink of an eye. Duan Lingtian could clearly feel that the injuries in his body had completely healed. At this moment, he only felt that his entire body was filled with strength. You tricked me. Chen Bei's expression changed drastically when he saw Duan Lingtian relaxing his frown, and a smile appearing on his face. In a fit of rage, the origin energy in his hand skyrocketed. Along with various profundities, it merged into the 7-foot-long spear. At once, the 7-foot-long spear trembled. A powerful energy spread out as though it could destroy everything. Whoosh! Faced with the enraged Chen Bei, a bow and arrow appeared in Duan Lingtian's hand out of thin air. He placed the arrow on the bowstring and pulled the bowstring into a full moon before shooting the arrow out. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. When Chen Bei's long spear trembled and tore through the sky, the spear ray that was several tens of feet long pierced towards the place where Duan Lingtian was standing. However, Duan Lingtian had already dodged it. Body and arrow synchronization. Stepping on the rapidly shooting arrow, Duan Lingtian dodged Chen Bei's furious attack. However, his crisis was not over yet. He could hear the sound of the wind whistling behind him. Without turning his head, he could tell that Chen Bei had caught up with him. However, Chen Bei's speed was only on par with his. It was impossible for him to catch up with him. How's this possible? Chen Bei, who was chasing Duan Lingtian at full speed, had a drastic change of expression when he realized this. Disbelief filled his eyes. How can his speed be so fast? Nothing's impossible. Naturally, Duan Lingtian heard what Qianbei said. He smirked in disdain. Qianbei, today, I'd like to see how capable you are as the second island master of the Hidden Fog Island. Don't you want to avenge your son? I'll accompany you to the end. Duan Lingtian had already jumped down from the arrow and stood in the sky far away. He looked down at Qianbei from afar as he taunted him. Do you think you can defeat me just because your speed is on par with mine? What a joke. I, Qianbei, am not the strongest in terms of speed. Hearing Duan Lingtian's taunts, Qianbei was instantly enraged. He roared fiercely, unwilling to lose to Duan Lingtian in terms of aura. However, before he could finish his sentence, Duan Lingtian interrupted him. Are you trying to say that your strongest point is not your speed, but your attacking technique? I'd like to see it for myself. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished his sentence, he knocked an arrow on his bow. With a clang, the bowstring vibrated as he pulled the bowstring into a full moon shape again. At the same time, Duan Lingtian fixed his gaze on Qianbei, who was dashing toward him. After confirming that he had locked onto Qianbei, he released the arrow in his hand. Whoosh! A sharp arrow that was as black as ink pierced through the air like a black lightning bolt and went straight for Qianbei. Its target was between Qianbei's eyebrows. Chapter 1334. Clang! Accompanied by a thunderous whistling sound, the sound of metal clashing reverberated in the air. It was Qianbei who had turned around and blocked Duan Lingtian's arrow at the critical moment. Although the arrow was blocked by the 7-foot-long spear in Qianbei's hand, he was not in a good state either. His spear and his body had to bear the force of the arrow. Not only that, even the 7-foot-long spear in his hand had a deep imprint on its shaft. The quasi-royal grade spirit weapon was actually damaged. However, Qianbei did not pay attention to that because he was already injured, and his injuries were not light. Duan Lingtian, I admit that I've underestimated you. However, do you think you can kill me with just this little bit of strength? After consuming a grade 1 life recovery pill, Qianbei's injuries recovered a little. After he recovered, he immediately charged toward Duan Lingtian. The long spear in his hand shook, and a spear ray that was several tens of feet long appeared again. Although Duan Lingtian had injured him with his arrow earlier, as far as he was concerned, it was because he'd underestimated Duan Lingtian that caused him to be injured. Moreover, the arrow earlier was not a threat to him at all. Just this little bit of strength. When Duan Lingtian heard Qianbei's words and saw him charging toward him with his spear, a sneer crept up on the corner of his mouth. Subsequently, he did not plan to continue dodging. With a lift of his hand, he shot another arrow. Arrowlight strike. Compared to the arrow earlier, this arrow was on a completely different level. The energy contained in it tore through the sky like a meteor falling from the sky. Clang! Another ear-piercing sound of metal clashing reverberated in the air. Accompanied by a vast and rolling shockwave, Qianbei blocked Duan Lingtian's arrow again. However, he was not as lucky as last time. His 7-foot-long spear was broken into two. The bones in his hand that was holding the spear, all the way to his shoulder, were shattered. The bones around his palm, in particular, were shattered into powder. Impossible! Qianbei was in disbelief when he saw his quasi-royal grade spirit spear being broken just like that. However, his attention quickly fell on his crippled arm. How is this possible? His strength, how can he be so strong? To Qianbei, the arrow that Duan Lingtian shot from behind was like the arrival of doomsday. After breaking through to elementary, the power of the meteor strike has actually increased so much. Duan Lingtian was very surprised by the effect of his arrow. It should be noted that he had only mastered the aerolite strike, one of the offensive techniques in the colossal aerolite arrow, to the intermediate stage 3 days ago. The minor accomplishment was the second stage of the Saint grade martial arts. After reaching this level, Duan Lingtian felt that its power had increased by several times compared to before. The increase was so great that it could be described as exaggerated. No, I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Qianbei looked at Duan Lingtian, who was standing there in high spirits. His face turned even more grave as he roared in his heart. There was a hint of despair in his roar. He knew very well in his heart. He was no longer a match for Duan Lingtian. It was even more impossible for him to defeat Duan Lingtian in the future to avenge his son. Die! I want you to die! Duan Lingtian, I want you to die! In the end, Chen Bei was on the brink of insanity. He lifted his uninjured hand and grabbed the 7-foot-long spear. Once again, he attacked Duan Lingtian aggressively. A mantis trying to stop a chariot. After witnessing the power of the aerolite strike that had broken through to the intermediate stage, Duan Lingtian's confidence was boosted. Facing the crazy Chen Bei, he smirked in disdain. At the same time, his hands were not idle. Aerolite strike. Another arrow was shot out. This time Chen Bei, who had lost his most important arm, could not block it at all. It easily pierced through his glabella. In the next moment, a bloody hole appeared in between Chen Bei's glabella. Brain matter splattered everywhere. He fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. He died with a grievance. An existence at the 8th level martial emperor stage. I actually killed him? Duan Lingtian's emotions surged. He even felt as though he was dreaming. I really didn't expect. After breaking through to the Emperor Wu stage 6, my fusion profundity and my sword profundity would be upgraded one after another. With just the aerolite strike, I can kill Chen Bei so easily. Duan Lingtian did not regain his senses for a long time. In the past 6 months, Duan Lingtian's strength had improved the fastest. Even he could not explain why. In the end, he could only blame it on the Saint's Stone and the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique that he cultivated. The 9th form of the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique, the Divine Dragon form. Ever since I've broken through to the Emperor Wu stage, I feel like the speed of my cultivation is much faster. Now every time my cultivation base improves, the speed of my cultivation becomes faster as well. Duan Lingtian could not help but marvel at the wonders of the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique after he had broken through to the Emperor Wu stage. As expected of the cultivation method that's comparable to the 3 Lives Rebirth technique in the Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory, the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique is much more powerful than the top cultivation methods like the Han Bing's Divine Sword technique. Duan Lingtian muttered to himself. After Chen Bei caused such a ruckus, Duan Lingtian no longer had the mood to continue cultivating. He went back to accompany the 2 girls. If it was not for the fact that he planned to go to the Dao Martial Saint land to look for his parents, he would have loved to stay by his 2 fiancées' side. Even if the land of love was a hero's grave, he would have accepted it. In the blink of an eye, another 6 months had passed. On this day, the entire Half-Moon Island trembled violently, as though there was an earthquake. Bastard! Duan Lingtian, who was originally cultivating in his room, had his eyes lit up all of a sudden. He immediately flew out. In the past year, the reason he did not leave Half-Moon Island in a hurry was because of Wang Ba. Wang Ba, who had occupied the body of Di Yong, the island master of Half-Moon Island. However, the current Wang Ba had used the name of the original owner of the body that he had occupied. Di Yong. Outside the mountain that was shrouded in clouds all year long, the 3 vice island masters of Half-Moon Island stood in the air. They looked in the direction of the mountain in awe, but they did not dare to go closer. Lord Island Master is finally coming out of his closed-door cultivation. A smile appeared on the faces of the 3 vice island masters of Half-Moon Island at the same time. Lord Island Master's strength will definitely increase tremendously when he comes out of his closed-door cultivation this time. By then, he'll be able to snatch that treasure from the hands of that sea monster. Xiao Kuan's eyes lit up as he said with a burning expression. That's right. In the past, Lord Island Master's strength was on par with that sea monster, so he couldn't snatch that treasure. Now that he's coming out of his closed-door cultivation, he'll definitely be able to defeat that sea monster and snatch that treasure. Humph. Speaking of which, it's really infuriating. That sea monster couldn't figure out that treasure on its own, yet it was unwilling to give it to Lord Island Master. Let's see how it's going to die this time. The other 2 vice island masters of Half-Moon Island said. Treasure? The 3 vice island masters of Half-Moon Island did not notice that a figure was flying above their heads as they were discussing. In the blink of an eye, it entered the mountain that was shrouded in clouds. Duan Lingtian had been waiting for a long time in the mountain. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he saw the figure coming in from outside. Xuanai, why are you only here now? Brother Lingtian, I heard the 3 Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island talking about some treasure. Han Xuanai said with a burning gaze. Treasure? Upon hearing that, Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up even more. What treasure? In his opinion, the 3 Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island were at the peak of Emperor Wu's stage. Something that they called a treasure must be extraordinary. I'm not too sure what kind of treasure it is. I only heard them saying that the treasure seems to be in the hands of some sea monster, and that sea monster's strength is on par with Di Yong. Han Xuanai said, so, that sea monster should be on the early stage of the mortal shedding stage just like Di Yong. However, since Di Yong has absorbed the vital essence of 85 powerhouses in their prime, I'm sure he'll be able to break through to the intermediate mortal shedding stage. If Tortoise can completely occupy its body, it'll be able to inherit its power. Han Xuanai continued. Duan Lingtian nodded. It's been a year. Theoretically, Tortoise should have completely occupied Di Yong's body. Let's go in and have a look. Duan Lingtian called out to Han Xuanai. Both of them went deep into the mountain. I remember that Tortoise went into hiding somewhere nearby last time. Duan Lingtian looked around and said, that's right, it's here. Han Xuanai nodded. She recognized this place as well. Boy, I've told you that I've changed my name. I'm no longer Wang Ba, I'm now Di Yong. Just as Han Xuanai's voice fell, a dissatisfied voice sounded from afar and approached. Soon, a sturdy black figure appeared in front of Duan Lingtian and Han Xuanai. It was a tall and sturdy black-clad middle-aged man. Han Xuanai was unfamiliar with this figure. However, Duan Lingtian was familiar with him. It was Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island whom he had met before. Naturally, the soul of Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, had been suppressed by the Devil Seal tablet. His soul at the early stage of the mortal shedding stage was destroyed by the Devil Seal tablet in just a blink of an eye. The Di Yong standing in front of Duan Lingtian was the Di Yong whose body was occupied by Wang Ba's soul. It was a brand new Di Yong. I'm used to calling you that. I can't change it in a short period of time. Duan Lingtian shook his head in the face of Di Yong's dissatisfaction. He then asked, Tortoise, have you completely occupied this body now? Yes. Di Yong nodded faintly. There was a hint of dissatisfaction on his face. He was dissatisfied that Duan Lingtian still called him Tortoise until now. Tortoise, he must have broken through to the intermediate stage of the mortal shedding stage after absorbing so much vital essence, right? Han Xuanai asked as she looked at Di Yong. Di Yong nodded again. I've only heard of the direct descendants of the dragons, the 5-clawed divine dragons. I know they're very talented. I'm curious, how many Saint Veins have you opened since you've broken through to the intermediate stage of the mortal shedding stage? Han Xuanai's eyes lit up. Chapter 1335. 23 Veins. Di Yong's lips curled into a bright smile. 23 veins? Duan Lingtian did not feel anything when he heard Di Yong's words, but Han Xuanai was shocked. He managed to open 23 Saint Veins at the intermediate mortal shedding stage. Doesn't that mean he'll be able to open more than 70 Saint Veins when he enters the paramount mortal shedding stage? More than 70 Saint Veins. This time, Duan Lingtian finally regained his senses when he heard Han Xuanai's words. His eyes widened in shock. He still remembered. The current Di Yong and the former Wang Ba had said this before. During his time, the person who opened the most Saint Veins had only opened 67 Saint Veins. He had only opened 59 Saint Veins at that time. However, Xuanai said Di Yong was able to open 70 Saint Veins? How could Duan Lingtian not be shocked? It shouldn't be a problem to open more than 70 Saint Veins. At this moment, the smile on Di Yong's face became even brighter. As a former Saint Stage powerhouse, he knew the cultivation path of the mortal shedding stage very well. He had opened 23 Saint Veins at the intermediate mortal shedding stage. With such innate talent and the devil cultivation method he cultivated back then, he would definitely be able to open more than 70 saint veins when he was at the paramount mortal shedding stage. The mortal shedding stage was divided into 5 stages. The early mortal shedding stage, intermediate mortal shedding stage, mastery mortal shedding stage, and paramount mortal shedding stage. The strength of each stage was not the same, whether it was a martial cultivator or a Dao cultivator. The saint veins that were opened in their bodies would be formed when they broke through to the paramount mortal shedding stage. The number of saint veins opened, when one was at the paramount mortal shedding stage, would be the number of saint veins opened in the future. Unless there was a fortuitous encounter. Of course, such a fortuitous encounter was rare. It might not even happen once in 10,000 years. The number of saint veins would directly affect the cultivation speed of a martial cultivator or a Dao cultivator. The more saint veins one had, the faster one would be able to absorb the energy from heaven and earth, and the energy from the saint stones, and vice versa. Furthermore, the number of saint veins one possessed would directly affect the strength of a martial cultivator and Dao cultivator. For martial and Dao cultivators of the same cultivation base, those with more saint bloodlines would be stronger, and vice versa. Now, I can understand why a 5-clawed devil dragon was able to topple all the dragons. The 5-clawed devil dragon was definitely the most talented among the 5-clawed divine dragons. Han Shu and I sucked in a breath of cold air and muttered, "As far as I know, in the history of dragons, an ordinary 5-clawed divine dragon could only open up 66 saint veins at most. This body is simply too perfect. With this body, it's only a matter of time before I return to my peak. No, you can completely surpass me when I was at my peak." Di Yong reached out and gently stroked his body. The more he touched it, the more he liked it. He said with an intoxicated expression. Seeing Di Yong's actions, Duan Lingtian felt goosebumps all over his body. Was this fellow touching himself? Pervert. Too perverted. Boy, since you've helped me obtain the body of a direct descendant of the dragons, we're even now. From today onward, you'll cross your bridge, and I'll walk my own path. We'll have nothing to do with each other. Soon after, Di Yong stopped what he was doing and looked at Duan Lingtian as he said nonchalantly. Even upon hearing Di Yong's words, Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes instinctively. Bastard, you've just obtained a new body, and you're in such a hurry to cut off all ties with me? Humph. Boy, you have the Devil Seal tablet, so it's better for me to stay away from you. Otherwise, what if you're in a bad mood one day and suppress me again? Di Yong snorted. His words were filled with dread. His soul had yet to fully recover. If he was suppressed by the Devil Seal tablet again, he would definitely die. In his eyes, Duan Lingtian was even more terrifying than a saint stage powerhouse. He could kill him with just a wave of his hand. Even if he had obtained the body of a 5-clawed devil dragon, possessed unparalleled innate talent, and had a smooth cultivation path in the future, he was still a devil cultivator after all. As a mortal shedding stage devil cultivator, he had no way of fighting back against the Devil Seal tablet in Duan Lingtian's hand. The Devil Seal tablet activated by an innate stage martial cultivator could easily suppress a mortal shedding stage devil cultivator. I won't stop you if you want to leave. However, I hope you can help me clean up the mess, Duan Lingtian said nonchalantly. Clean up the mess? Clean up what mess? Di Yong was stunned. I killed the original island master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong, and you took his body. Although he's a 5-clawed devil dragon, he must have had other 5-clawed divine dragons secretly helping him, since he was able to leave this place alive. If we don't clean up this mess properly, what if the 5-clawed divine dragon behind him comes looking for us? You used to be a saint stage powerhouse in the Dao martial saint land. Don't tell me you don't know how powerful an adult 5-clawed divine dragon is? Duan Lingtian said as he glared at Di Yong. Why do you care so much? We'll just leave. Don't tell me you're afraid the 5-clawed divine dragon will find us? Di Yong said nonchalantly. The Dao martial saint land was so big. He did not believe the adult 5-clawed divine dragon would be able to find them, unless all the dragons made a move. However, this matter was related to the 5-clawed devil dragon. He believed the 5-clawed divine dragon would not dare to alarm all the dragons. In fact, The five-clawed devil dragon was a taboo to the dragons. Even if others did not kill it, the dragons would not let it go. We can leave, but what about my sect? If the five-clawed divine dragon really wants to pursue the matter, it'll definitely implicate my sect. Duan Lingtian said with a frown. You're so troublesome. Forget it. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll help you clean up. Tell me, what do you want me to do? Di Yong said impatiently. You just have to continue to pretend to be the island master of Half Moon Island. Duan Lingtian said. Pretend to be the island master of Half Moon Island? Di Yong frowned. Boy, I don't want to stay on Half Moon Island any longer. The Dao Martial Saint Land is where I'm going next. I know. Duan Lingtian nodded. I'm not asking you to stay on Half Moon Island any longer. You just have to pretend to be the island master of Half Moon Island. As long as you explain yourself to the 3 vice island masters of Half Moon Island and leave, I don't care where you go. You want me to pretend to be the island master of Half Moon Island and leave as the island master of Half Moon Island? In that case, even if the five-clawed divine dragon comes looking for me in the future, he'll think that I've left on my own accord? Di Yong asked. That's right. Duan Lingtian nodded. That's the only way I won't anger the five-clawed divine dragon. Since the five-clawed divine dragon is willing to risk being punished by the dragons to bring Di Yong away from the Dao Martial Saint Land, he must have a close relationship with Di Yong. I even suspect that the five-clawed divine dragon might be Di Yong's parents. Duan Lingtian continued. Bah! Nobody has the right to be my parents. Not even the five-clawed divine dragon. Di Yong said with dissatisfaction. I'm talking about Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island whom I've killed, not you. Duan Lingtian said angrily. How about this? Go and look for the 3 vice island masters of Half Moon Island now, and tell them that I'll be your direct disciple, and hand Half Moon Island over to me. Moreover, ask them to swear on the 99 heavenly tribulation that they'll be loyal to me and not be disloyal. As for you, you can go to the Dao Martial Saint Land on your own, after you've told them everything. Duan Lingtian continued to tell Di Yong. This was a plan that he had come up with long ago. He wanted to control Half Moon Island, the leader of the 4 great overseas Saint Islands. Half Moon Island was undoubtedly a good place for him. The Supreme Great Origin Stone Reserve buried deep underground was twice as many as the Supreme Great Origin Stone Reserve buried in the Hidden Fog Island. The cultivation environment here could be said to be the best outside of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Naturally, this was what Han Shu and I had told Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian planned to move Lingtian's sect here, after he had taken control of Half Moon Island. With Half Moon Island as their base, the strength of the people from Lingtian's sect would definitely rise rapidly. Han Shu and I also clapped her hands and applauded Duan Lingtian's plan. Boy, you're really greedy. You actually want to take over this island, Di Yong said as he stared deeply at Duan Lingtian. Greedy? Duan Lingtian glanced at Di Yong in disdain. Speaking of greedy, how can I compare to you? You're occupying the body of a 5-clawed devil dragon. With its body, you can even open more than 70 saint veins. I wonder if there's anyone in the Dao Martial Saint Land who can open more saint veins than you. Duan Lingtian said. Haha, that's true. With this 5-clawed devil dragon's body, I'll definitely enter the top 10 of the Supreme Saint ranking. No, top 5. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Di Yong laughed out loud. Top 5? Is that all you've got? Duan Lingtian said with disdain as he rolled his eyes at Di Yong. Humph. Boy. Do you really think the powerhouses on the Supreme Saint ranking are easy to deal with? Let me tell you, even in my era, the powerhouse who opened the most saint veins only managed to get into the 7th place on the Supreme Saint ranking. Di Yong said, there are many powerhouses in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Saint veins have a huge impact on one's strength. However, other aspects also have a huge impact on one's strength. That's right, Brother Lingtian. The powerhouses who are at the top of the Supreme Saint ranking might not have opened the most saint veins in the Dao Martial Saint Land. However, the number of saint veins they opened is not much different from the powerhouses who opened the most saint veins. Han Shu and I said. I see. Duan Lingtian finally understood. Of course the gap isn't that big. For example, the sword saint I mentioned before. He opened all the hidden saint veins in his body, and opened a total of 81 saint veins. The saint veins in other people's bodies are like a chasm compared to his. Regardless of other aspects, other people are far from his level, because the gap in foundation is too big. Chapter 1336. Saint veins could be considered as the foundation of martial and Tao cultivators in the Tao martial saint land. The more one opened, the better. The more saint veins one had, the higher one's achievements would be in the future. Although the person who opened the most saint veins did not necessarily have the strongest ability, he had a great advantage. It seems like the martial and Tao cultivators in the Tao martial saint land have more powerful techniques. They can even ignore the difference in the number of saint veins. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. He was looking forward to his cultivation journey in the Tao martial saint land. Currently, his cultivation base had already broken through to the 6th level Emperor Wu stage. As long as he continued to cultivate, he believed he could break through to the peak of the Emperor Wu stage within a year, with the help of the Saint Stones. At that time, he would be able to break through to the mortal shedding stage. I believe in the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique. The reason why he was confident he could break through to the peak of the Emperor Wu stage within a year was because of Duan Lingtian's unconditional trust in the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique. The 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique was a powerful technique that was on par with the 3 Lives Rebirth technique that the Reincarnation Emperor Wu cultivated back then. On the other hand, the 3 Lives Rebirth technique that the Rebirth Martial Emperor cultivated all those years ago was a level higher than the top cultivation techniques on Cloud Continent, like the Han Bing's God's Sword technique, the Starry Sun technique, and the Dark Beauty Divine technique. Whether it was the Han Bing's Divine Sword technique, the Sun and Moon Star technique, or the Mystical Beauty Divine technique, all of them were powerful techniques that could be cultivated to the peak of the Emperor Wu stage. Techniques that were more powerful than them could be called the most powerful techniques on Cloud Continent. The 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island are outside now. When Xuanai came over earlier, she heard them talking about an early mortal shedding stage sea monster guarding a treasure. The treasure was snatched by the former island master of Half Moon Island, Diyong, many times, but he did not succeed in the end. Duan Lingtian told Diyong, they think, as long as you break through to the intermediate mortal shedding stage, you'll be able to snatch the treasure from the sea monster. Treasure? Hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Diyong's eyes lit up. Go and wrap it up. Upon hearing that there was a treasure, Diyong was more excited than anyone else. He immediately flew out. Duan Lingtian and Han Xuanai followed him. The 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were waiting quietly outside the mountains that were shrouded in clouds. They were not impatient at all. Soon their eyes lit up. Immediately after, they immediately looked at the figure that flew out from the depths of the mountain. This tall black figure was very familiar to them. Island Master. In the face of the middle-aged man in black, the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island, including Xiao Kuan, bowed respectfully. Yes, the black-robed middle-aged man was none other than Diyong. Facing the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island who bowed to him, he nodded faintly. Of course, this was not the previous Diyong, the island master of Half Moon Island. Although his body was still the same, his soul had changed. He was a completely different person. However, the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island could not tell. Soon after, Duan Lingtian and Han Xuanai followed him out and stood behind Diyong. The appearance of the two of them shocked the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island. From now on, this Duan Lingtian is my direct disciple. He's also the new island master of Half Moon Island. Diyong said slowly. The 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were dumbfounded. Did the island master not take a fancy to Duan Lingtian? Could it be that he changed his mind at the last minute? The more they thought about it, the more certain they were. I've decided to leave Half Moon Island in a few days and head to the Tao Martial Saint Land. However, before I leave, all of you must swear to be loyal to this direct disciple of mine, using the 99 Heavenly Tribulation. Diyong continued. The three Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island did not expect Di Yong to say this. Horror dawned on them. The reason they were willing to follow Di Yong and be a Vice Island master was because they were in awe of Di Yong's strength. They were willing to be under Di Yong. However, they were unwilling from the bottom of their hearts to be subservient to a brat. Why? Is there a problem? Seeing that the three Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island seemed to be hesitating, Di Yong's eyes turned cold. A majestic aura extended from his body and swept toward the three Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island. Pooh! Barf! At once the three of them trembled. They opened their mouths and spat out a mouthful of blood. Their faces turned pale. Feeling the increasing pressure that was close to suffocation, the three of them could not help but feel despair. At once the three of them admitted defeat. Then, under Di Yong's sharp gaze, the three of them swore an oath using the 99 heavenly tribulation to be loyal to Duan Lingtian. After telling them everything, Di Yong asked the three of them to lead the way to look for the sea monster that was guarding the treasure. Lord Island Master, that sea monster has been staying in the west all this time. Under the lead of the three Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island, Duan Lingtian, and the other two arrived at the sea region west of Half Moon Island. They traveled all the way west for half an hour. On the vast and calm sea, the five of them stopped and stood there. Enter. After confirming that this was the place, a gentle energy extended from Di Yong's body. It instantly transformed into a layer of transparent light shield and shrouded the five of them, including him. Then, he led Duan Lingtian and the other three into the sea region. At once, the calmness of the sea was broken. Vast rolling waves surged. The waves crashed one after another without stopping for a long time. At the same time, under Di Yong's lead, Duan Lingtian and the other three had already gone deep into the sea region. This isn't origin energy, Duan Lingtian mumbled as he observed the transparent light shield around him and sensed the aura that permeated it. Brother Lingtian, this is true energy. Han Shu and I heard Duan Lingtian's whisper and explained, when a martial cultivator's cultivation base breaks through to the mortal shedding stage, a chi pool will appear in his body. His origin energy will also transform into a new energy, true energy. True energy is an energy that's a level higher than origin energy. Han Shu and I explained. Duan Lingtian came to a realization. He was not surprised at all. Where is it? Di Yong turned around and glanced at the three Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island and asked. Over there. The three of them immediately pointed to the side. The sea monster's whereabouts would change every once in a while. All this while, the three of them had been personally tracking the sea monster's whereabouts. Therefore, they knew exactly where it was. Finally, under the guidance of the three Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island, Duan Lingtian and the other two saw the sea monster. The sea monster was crouching in the depths of the sea, hiding among the algae in the deep sea. An octopus? When they got closer, Duan Lingtian saw the sea monster's appearance clearly. It was an octopus. To be precise, it was an extra-large octopus that looked like a towering mountain. The octopus crouched there like a mountain at the bottom of the sea. That's... Soon, Duan Lingtian's gaze shifted and landed on one of the octopus's tentacles, as if he had discovered something. A small pagoda that was as tall as an adult was hovering in the air, wrapped around by the tentacles. From afar, the small pagoda looked very exquisite. Apart from that, it gave Duan Lingtian an extremely special feeling. This feeling was very intimate. Even Duan Lingtian wondered if he had sensed wrongly. Lord Island Master, the treasure is over there. The three Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island looked at the small pagoda and whispered to Di Yong. Di Yong's gaze landed on the small pagoda as well. It doesn't look any different. You're saying that it's a treasure? Han Shu and I asked. Miss Xuanai, you don't know. This small pagoda doesn't look special, but even when the Lord Island Master fought with this sea monster in the past, no matter how strong the force was, it couldn't be affected. Xiao Kuan said solemnly. When the force is 1 meter away from it, everything will be blocked. There's always a layer of force protecting it on the surface. Just like now, the sea monster's tentacles seem to be wrapped around it, but it's not actually touching it. Xiao Kuan continued. Upon hearing Xiao Kuan's words, Duan Lingtian, Han Xuanai, and Di Yong looked over. As expected, they saw that the giant octopus tentacles did not touch the small pagoda. There seemed to be a 1-meter square protective layer around the small pagoda that prevented anything from getting close. "It's awake!" Xiao Kuan exclaimed suddenly. At the same time, Duan Lingtian clearly saw that the giant octopus opened its eyes. Its eyes were as big as a wash basin, and they gleamed with a terrifying cold gleam. As soon as it woke up, it noticed Duan Lingtian and the others. Its sharp gaze landed on Di Yong immediately. To it, Di Yong was already an old acquaintance. Boom, 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 boom. As soon as the giant octopus moved, the entire seabed shook as though the ground and mountains were shaking. The seawater rolled, causing the transparent light shield that enveloped Duan Lingtian and the others to shake. However, it was a light shield that was held up by Di Yong's true energy after all, so it was not affected at all. Humph. In the face of the giant octopus that leaped up, Di Yong snorted coldly. His body moved, and his entire body seemed to have transformed into a bolt of black lightning that shot out in an instant. Whoosh! The seawater shook, and a long vacuum water channel was drawn out. It only closed after a while. Rumble! At the same time, a loud noise was heard, and the ground and mountains shook again. In the next second, the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were dumbfounded. A hole appeared on the giant octopus's head. It was a huge hole that could fit a person. The hole penetrated the giant octopus's head and killed it. Lord Island Master's ability. After the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island snapped back to their senses, they were shocked. The powerful sea monster, that was on par with Lord Island Master in the past, was killed by him in just one blow? Isn't this too exaggerated? Duan Lingtian was shocked as well. You're a citizen of Yanhuang land? Suddenly, an old voice resonated in Duan Lingtian's ears, causing his heart to jolt. Yanhuang land? Wasn't that the name of the land of Hua in the ancient myths and legends of Hua in his previous life? Chapter 1337. Duan Lingtian was stunned by the old voice. It took him a long time to regain his senses. After regaining his senses, Duan Lingtian began to look around in an attempt to find the owner of the old voice. At this moment he was filled with excitement. Subconsciously, he felt that the owner of the voice must have something to do with Earth, where he was from in his past life. "You don't have to look for me. I'm in the pagoda in front of you." The old voice continued to sound. It made Duan Lingtian stop what he was doing and look at the little pagoda that was floating in the depths of the sea. At this moment, Di Yong was standing in front of the little pagoda. Suddenly, Di Yong extended his hand in an attempt to touch it. However, the invisible energy surrounding it blocked Di Yong, who was at the intermediate mortal shedding stage. Di Yong could not suppress this energy at all. "This pagoda is not simple." Di Yong's eyes lit up. "Indeed, it's not simple." Unknowingly, Han Xuanai had also come to Di Yong's side to observe the little pagoda. A moment later, she extended her hand to the little pagoda that was as tall as an adult. After testing it out, she realized that her energy could not suppress the energy surrounding the little pagoda. "This energy doesn't seem to be true energy." Han Xuanai mumbled to herself. She was confused. At the same time, the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island also came forward to observe the little pagoda. Just like Di Yong and Han Xuanai, they could not do anything to the little pagoda and could only watch. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian moved. Origin energy propped up a layer of light shield on the surface of his body. He came to Han Xuanai's side and extended his hand to grab the little pagoda that was floating in the air. Seeing Duan Lingtian's action, Han Xuanai, Di Yong, and the rest watched calmly. In their opinion, if they could not do anything to the little pagoda, it was even more impossible for Duan Lingtian to do anything to it. After all, Duan Lingtian's ability was the weakest among them. However, in the next moment, they were all stunned. Duan Lingtian stretched out his hand and reached for the small pagoda. During this process, he did not seem to have encountered any obstacles and easily touched the small pagoda. How is this possible? Di Yong and the three Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island narrowed their eyes in shock and disbelief. Big brother Ling Tian. Han Xuanai was also shocked by the scene in front of her. Even she and Di Yong couldn't do anything to Small Tower. But it was actually so easily touched by her big brother Ling Tian? Duan Lingtian's hand had just touched the small pagoda when it felt cold to the touch. At the same time, a warm stream of air extended from the small pagoda and flowed into his body through his hand, circulating around his entire body. At this moment, Duan Lingtian felt comfortable and warm all over his body. It was so comfortable that he closed his eyes without realizing it. Seeing how Duan Lingtian closed his eyes when he touched the small pagoda with an intoxicated expression, Di Yong, Han Xuanai, and the three Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island were all moved. Following that, Di Yong and Han Xuanai stretched out their hands one after another and slowly moved toward the small pagoda. Soon, they realized that when their hands were 1 meter away from the small pagoda, they no longer felt the pressure like before. This made their eyes light up. They took a deep breath and continued to move forward, wanting to touch the small pagoda. Boom! Boom! However, as their hands moved forward in unison, a terrifying wave of energy surged out and entered their bodies, as if it was crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. The two of them were sent flying. At that moment, both Di Yong and Han Xuanai turned pale. It was obvious that they were severely injured. Upon seeing this, the three Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island felt their scalps go numb and they shuddered. They completely dispelled the thought of touching the small pagoda. Soon after, the gazes of the 5 people simultaneously descended onto Duan Lingtian. They realized that although the small pagoda had released a powerful force, Duan Lingtian was not affected at all. He was still standing there with his hand on the small pagoda. From the beginning until the end, Duan Lingtian's eyes were tightly shut. The intoxicated expression on his face did not change at all. It was as though he was enjoying some kind of baptism. What the hell? Di Yong cursed. This stupid pagoda only recognizes this brat. It seems like brother Ling Tian has an affinity with it. This pagoda is really spiritual. Even the 10 great super saint weapons, in the 10 great saint weapons, ranking in the Tao martial saint land, might not be as spiritual as this pagoda. Han Xuanai muttered to herself. Perhaps, it's one of the 10 great saint weapons in the 10 great saint weapons ranking. Di Yong said as a scorching flame rose in his eyes. The three Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island looked at Duan Lingtian with jealousy in their eyes. They could tell that the small pagoda was not an ordinary object. What a joke! How could the small pagoda be an ordinary object if even the island masters of Half Moon Island could not do anything to it? No matter how surprised the 5 of them were, Duan Lingtian was currently in a wonderful state. This state was similar to the state a baby would be in before it was born. Duan Lingtian only felt that his entire body was enveloped by a gentle force. Not only was this force gentle, but it also gave him a warmth he had never felt before. It warmed his flesh, blood, bones, meridians. Everything in his body was undergoing an earth-shattering change as this energy entered his body. Time passed by quietly. Unknowingly, the origin energy in Duan Lingtian's body began to circulate on its own. It circulated according to the divine dragon form mental cultivation method of the 9 dragons, war sovereign technique. It was as though it did not know exhaustion and did not stop from the beginning. You have a good foundation. I didn't expect to meet a citizen of the Yanhuang land here. Now I have a chance to leave this godforsaken place. An old voice resonated from the lowest level of the small pagoda and reverberated continuously. This small pagoda had a total of 7 levels from the top to the bottom. After an unknown period of time, Duan Lingtian only felt a warmth leaving his body. It made him feel like he had not had enough. However, when he opened his eyes and regained his senses, his pupils shrank. What's going on? At this moment, Duan Lingtian could clearly feel the elevation of his cultivation base. His original cultivation base of Emperor Wu Stage 6 was no longer there. His current cultivation base had broken through to the 9th level of Emperor Wu Stage. At this moment, Duan Lingtian felt like he was dreaming. What's going on? I only touched the small pagoda. And then a force extended from the small pagoda. Duan Lingtian's emotions surged, and he could not calm down for a long time. Earlier, the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda had already fused its remaining force into your body to help you be reborn. At this moment, the old voice continued to resound. Duan Lingtian could hear it. This voice was the same one that had said he was a citizen of the Yanhuang land. Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda? When Duan Lingtian heard the other party's words, he could not help but be stunned. He felt that this name was familiar, as though he had heard it somewhere before. Brother Lingtian. Just as Duan Lingtian began to think and recall, a voice rang in his ears and woke him up. He raised his head and saw Han Xuanai looking at him with a face full of concern. Apart from Han Xuanai, Di Yong and the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were standing by the side as well. Brother Lingtian, what happened just now? Why are you the only one who can touch this small pagoda? But we can't. Han Xuanai glanced at the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda in front of Duan Lingtian with fear and asked curiously. I don't know either. Duan Lingtian shook his head. Boy, you closed your eyes and reveled in it for half an hour. What did you discover? Di Yong asked. There was a fire burning deep in his eyes. Half an hour? When Duan Lingtian heard Di Yong's words, he was stunned. So only half an hour had passed? It's only half an hour. My cultivation base has broken through from the 6th level Emperor Wu stage to the 9th level Emperor Wu stage? When Duan Lingtian thought of this, his emotions surged again. Also, the voice earlier said something about the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, using its remaining energy to help me shed my mortal body. Didn't my body shed my mortal body long ago? Duan Lingtian still remembered. All those years ago, when he was still in Cloud Continent and the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, he'd obtained the 10,000-year stalactite milk from the 7-Star Sword sect, and he'd been reborn with the assistance of the 10,000-year stalactite milk. At that time, his martial Dao innate talent had also reached the limit of a martial artist on Cloud Continent. For a moment, Duan Lingtian was puzzled by the old voice's words. Why? Did you discover something? Di Yong looked at Duan Lingtian and asked once more. No. Duan Lingtian shook his head and subconsciously concealed this secret. Subsequently, he looked at the tiny pagoda that floated before him and thought to himself. According to the voice earlier, it's called the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda? It would be great if this Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was smaller. Duan Lingtian thought as he looked at the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda that was as tall as him. Practically at the same time Duan Lingtian finished thinking, he noticed to his astonishment that a shocking change had occurred to the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda before his eyes. Accompanied by circle after circle of illusory silhouettes that changed from large to small, the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda shrunk and firmly fell into his hand in the end. Holding the tiny pagoda that was only 30 centimeters tall, Duan Lingtian was dumbstruck and couldn't recover from his shock for a long time. Whereas Di Yong, Han Xuanai, and the others were shocked by the scene before their eyes. This pagoda can become smaller? Xiao Kuan, one of the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island, swallowed hard and said in disbelief. I'm not dreaming. Another Vice Island Master pinched his thigh hard. The pain that came from his thigh told him that everything before his eyes was real. Although the last Vice Island Master did not say anything, the astonishment and disbelief in his eyes undoubtedly revealed his current feelings. Di Yong and Han Xuanai looked at each other and saw the astonishment in each other's eyes. This tiny pagoda, could it really be one of the 10 great super saint weapons on the 10 great saint weapons ranking? Di Yong mumbled softly, there's indeed a pagoda-shaped super saint weapon on the 10 great saint weapons ranking called the Great Heaven Pagoda. Could it be this? Chapter 1338. That's not right. Han Xuanai, who had just made her guess, seemed to have recalled something all of a sudden. She shook her head and denied her guess. Rumor has it that the Great Heaven Pagoda is in the hands of a current top saint stage powerhouse. It's impossible for it to appear here. If it's not the Great Heaven Pagoda, then what is it? De Yong muttered to himself as he looked at the exquisite pagoda in Duan Lingtian's hand. He did not know when he started frowning. He had no clue from the beginning until the end. At this moment, whether it was Han Xuanai, De Yong, or the three Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island, none of them noticed that Duan Lingtian's body trembled slightly. At the same time, a gleam flashed across the depth of his eyes. I remember now. I remember now. Duan Lingtian looked at the exquisite pagoda in his hand, his emotions surging. The Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. It's the immortal supreme treasure in the hands of the pagoda-bearing heavenly king, Li Jing. In the ancient myths and legends of China on Earth in my previous life, there were various versions of the legend of the pagoda-bearing heavenly king, Li Jing, in his previous life. However, all the versions mentioned the immortal supreme treasure in his hands, the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. However, Duan Lingtian quickly calmed down. Maybe it's just a coincidence that they have the same name. In the past, he didn't believe in the ancient myths and legends of his previous life, because they were simply too unimaginable. However, after coming to this world, his thoughts changed. Moreover, as the saying went, there's no smoke without fire. Since those ancient myths and legends had been passed down, it was very likely that they were true. If the legends were true, then perhaps there really were people in the legends. As a citizen of the Yanhuang land, why are you here? Suddenly, the old voice sounded again and woke Duan Lingtian up. This time, Duan Lingtian heard it clearly. This voice that only he could hear came from the lowest level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Who are you? Duan Lingtian asked curiously as he transmitted his voice transmission to the lowest level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Me. I'm the one and only three-legged golden crow in the world. The people of the Yanhuang land call me the Divine Sun Bird. The old voice continued to speak, revealing its identity. Three-legged golden crow? Sunbird. Duan Lingtian's heart shook violently, and his voice transmission was filled with astonishment and disbelief. You. Could it be that you're the last three-legged suncrow of legend that escaped with its life beneath Ho Yi's arrow? Duan Lingtian remembered. In his previous life, there was a legend about Ho Yi shooting down the sun. Legend had it that in ancient times, 11 suns had appeared in the sky, and one of them had originally existed. As for the other 10, they appeared later on. The extra 10 suns were actually 10 golden crows, 10 mischievous golden crows. Legend had it that they were the sons of the celestial emperor. When 11 suns appeared, the earth was scorched, and the people had no way to make a living. At this moment, a human expert named Hoi acted. Using his unparalleled archery skills, he killed 9 golden crows in succession, leaving only one that fled far away. I didn't expect you to know this. That's a long time ago. The old voice continued to speak, seeming very calm and unperturbed. However, his words had undoubtedly revealed his identity. He was the three-legged golden crow that escaped from Ho Yi's arrow in the ancient myths and legends of Duan Lingtian's previous life. He was also the divine sun bird in the later generations' mouths. You're really the three-legged golden crow? Duan Lingtian secretly gasped and said with some excitement. So you're also from Earth like me? Earth. The three-legged golden crow's tone was full of confusion. The Yanhuang land is on Earth. Duan Lingtian explained. The Yanhuang land? I left there a long time ago. Even I don't remember how long I've been away. As for the Earth you mentioned, we call it the Yanhuang planet. The three-legged golden crow said. The Yanhuang planet is my hometown. As the three-legged golden crow spoke, there was a hint of nostalgia in his tone. Yanhuang planet? Duan Lingtian was startled. It was the first time he heard that Earth had another name, but this was not the point for him now. How did you get here? The three-legged golden crow asked again. I can feel that your soul has the breath of the people of the Yanhuang land. Your hometown should also be on the Yanhuang planet. I was killed by an accident. My soul crossed over to this world and was reborn. Duan Lingtian said with a wry smile. Can this be? The three-legged golden crow's tone was full of surprise. Obviously, he could not understand Duan Lingtian's experience. How did you get here? Duan Lingtian asked. In his heart, there was a faint excitement. The three-legged golden crow, like him, came from Earth. However, he was just an ordinary human on Earth, while the three-legged golden crow was a powerful existence in ancient myths and legends, with a powerful strength comparable to the immortal gods. He was full of curiosity about how the three-legged golden crow came here. Maybe I can have a chance to go back to Earth, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. I came here with the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Before Li Jing was killed, he forcibly tore the space, and threw the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda into the space turbulence. The three-legged golden crow recalled. After the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was thrown into the space turbulence, it was seriously damaged, and I was seriously injured. It was not until 100 years ago that I woke up and began to recover on my own. Li Jing, are you talking about the pagoda heavenly king, Li Jing? Nez's father? Duan Lingtian secretly gasped again and asked. It's him. The three-legged golden crow snorted. He's a useless guy. That old monk Dipankara actually gave him the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. What a waste of God's gift. The 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was damaged. Not only was I seriously injured, but the other 6 immortal supreme treasures in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda were also damaged. I don't know when they will recover. The three-legged golden crow sighed. The other 6 immortal supreme treasures? Upon hearing this, Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up immediately. However, before he could continue asking the three-legged golden crow, Di Yong's voice resonated in his ears. Boy, we're even now. It's time for me to leave and head to the Dao Martial Saint Land. After informing Duan Lingtian, Di Yong left. He did not even bid farewell to the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian called out to Han Xuanai and brought the 3 Vice Island Masters back to Half Moon Island. After returning to Half Moon Island, Duan Lingtian returned to the mansion he had stayed in for the past year and returned to his own room. From the beginning until the end, he did not even have the time to bid farewell to the 2 girls and the 3 little fellows. After returning to his room, Duan Lingtian stared at the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda in his hand and asked, You said there are 6 other immortal supreme treasures in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda? Of course. It's precisely because there are 7 treasures in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda that it's called the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. The three-legged golden crow said. 7 treasures? Other than the 6 immortal supreme treasures? What about the other treasure? Duan Lingtian asked in confusion. The other treasure is naturally me. The three-legged golden crow said again. I almost forgot about you. Duan Lingtian smiled awkwardly and asked again. What are the other 6 immortal supreme treasures that you mentioned earlier? The 6 immortal supreme treasures are the Jasper Celestial Sword, the Astonishing God Halberd, the Universe Ruler, the Heavenly Luo Umbrella, the World-Cleansing Horsetail Whisk, and the Battle Heaven Spike. The three-legged golden crow said. Can you give me one of them? Duan Lingtian asked with a burning gaze. Just by hearing the names of the 6 immortal supreme treasures, one could tell that they were divine weapons. If he could obtain one of them, would he not be invincible? Those were immortal supreme treasures. In the face of a celestial supreme treasure, even the 10 great super saint weapons on the 10 great saint weapons, ranking in the Dao Martial Saint Land, were nothing. If you want to use them, go and get them yourself. They're on the 2nd to 7th level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. The three-legged golden crow said. Get them myself. How do I get them? Duan Lingtian looked at the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda in his hand. Do I have to find a spacious place and turn the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda into a huge pagoda before I enter? When we were at the bottom of the sea earlier, the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda had already acknowledged you as its master. Now, you only need a thought to enter the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. The three-legged golden crow said. A thought. Duan Lingtian looked at the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda in his hand. With just a thought, he saw a flash in front of his eyes and arrived at an unfamiliar place. It was a spacious and vast space. As soon as he entered, he could feel a scorching aura that made him feel as though he was in a world of fire. After a while, the scorching aura disappeared. At the same time, Duan Lingtian saw a huge bird that suddenly appeared in front of him. It was a huge bird that was covered in golden flames. The biggest difference between this huge bird and ordinary birds was that it had 3 legs. Ordinary birds only had 2 legs. You're the 3-legged golden crow? Duan Lingtian gasped and asked in shock as he looked at the huge flaming bird that had concealed its aura. Yes, the huge flaming bird, the 3-legged golden crow nodded. This is the first level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. The 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was severely damaged after it was lost here, due to the spatial turbulence. Currently, only the first level has been restored. It's because of this that I was able to wake up. The 3-legged golden crow continued to speak. It was one of the 7 treasures in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, and it guarded the first level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. It was also the most important level. If one wanted to ascend to the second level, they would have to pass through the first level. He said, "The 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda has acknowledged me as its master? When did this happen?" Duan Lingtian asked. This was what he wanted to know the most. He remembered that he did not make the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda acknowledge him as its master. It seemed like one had to drip blood first to acknowledge its master, right? When the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda helped you to be reborn, it had already acknowledged you as its master. Chapter 1339. After communicating with the 3-legged golden crow, Duan Lingtian had a rough idea of what had happened. The 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda that he had obtained was Li Jing's personal weapon in the ancient myths and legends of Earth in his previous life. It was a top-notch celestial supreme treasure. According to the 3-legged golden crow, Li Jing had been killed. Before Li Jing was killed, in order to prevent the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda from falling into the hands of others, he forcefully tore open space and threw the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda into the spatial turbulence behind the spatial rift. The spatial turbulence was very terrifying. Even the person who killed Li Jing did not dare to enter it. As a top-notch celestial supreme treasure, the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was only damaged but not destroyed. In the end, it came here with the spatial turbulence, an unfamiliar planet. 100 years ago, the 3-legged golden crow on the first level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda had woken up. As time passed, although its injuries had healed, it could not leave. It was the pagoda spirit of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, and could not leave the pagoda on its own. In the past 100 years, the 3-legged golden crow had never thought that it could escape. Although it was the pagoda spirit of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda did not recognize anyone outside of the flame yellow continent as its master. It could not influence the will of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. However, what it did not expect was, after 100 years, it actually met a person from the Yanhuang land on this unfamiliar planet. To be more precise, it was a person who had the soul of a citizen of the Yanhuang land. Not only that, but the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda also recognized him as its new master. At that moment, the 3-legged golden crow knew that it had escaped. The 3-legged golden crow, who had lived for God knows how many years, was as calm as water. Even when Duan Lingtian mentioned its sworn enemy, Ho-yi, its emotions did not fluctuate at all. However, after knowing that it had escaped, its emotions fluctuated slightly. What a pity. I can't get any of the 6 celestial supreme treasures. Duan Lingtian sighed with a regretful expression on his face. According to the 3-legged golden crow, if he wanted to get the other 6 immortal supreme treasures, he had to repair the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda layer by layer. After so many years, the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda had only repaired the first level on its own, allowing the 3-legged golden crow to awaken. Yet now, the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda had used the energy that it had accumulated for so many years to help him complete his rebirth. After expending this amount of energy, the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was temporarily unable to repair the 2nd to 7th floors. If you can find the materials I need, I can use the flames of the sun to help repair the damaged second floor of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. The three-legged golden crow said. At that time, you'll be able to ascend to the second floor and obtain the Jasper Immortal Sword. What materials do you want? Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up. I don't know what these materials are called here. How about this? I will imprint the appearance of the materials into your mind. As the three-legged golden crow spoke, a pair of burning eyes flashed, and an imperceptible stream of light swept out, instantly piercing into Duan Lingtian's glabella. Instantly, Duan Lingtian felt a wave of dizziness wash over him. At the same time, he discovered that there were many illusions in his mind. These illusions were of various materials. These materials included medicinal herbs, metals, and stones. Apart from that, there were also some liquids. I don't seem to have any impression of these materials. Wait, I've seen this before. Isn't this the ethereal spirit herb? And this, I think it's the Mount Kuei rock. Duan Lingtian muttered as he raised his hand and took out two items. A stalk of grass and a crimson-red stone. How many of these two materials do you have? The three-legged golden crow's eyes lit up as he asked. These are all rare materials on Cloud Continent. I don't have much stock on me. However, I can ask someone to collect them. Duan Lingtian said. At the same time, he took out the two materials. All right. With these two materials, I can begin to repair the second floor of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. However, I'll need more materials to completely repair the second floor. The three-legged golden crow said. I understand. I'll ask someone to collect the other materials that you've told me about. Duan Lingtian nodded. Currently, he had already taken control of Half Moon Island. Once he gave the order, everyone on Half Moon Island, including the three Vice Island Masters, would work for him. Moreover, as the leader of the four overseas Saint Islands, Half Moon Island had a strong deterrent force. At that time, he could ask the other three overseas Saint Islands to help him search for the materials. As for Cloud Continent, he had the Ling Tian sect. Currently, the Ling Tian sect was already the #1 sect on Cloud Continent. It had a great influence and could mobilize the entire Cloud Continent to search for the materials. That's right. How should I address you in the future? Duan Lingtian asked the three-legged golden crow. You're the new owner of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. As the pagoda spirit of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, it's only natural that I'll follow your lead. You can call me whatever you want. The three-legged golden crow said. Then I'll call you Hualao from now on. Duan Lingtian sized up the three-legged golden crow for a while and exclaimed, I remember. In the ancient myths and legends from my previous life, you three-legged golden crows were known as the ancestors who played with fire. When it comes to playing with fire, no one can compare to you. Duan Lingtian said. Master, you flatter us. When it comes to playing with fire, us three-legged golden crows can only be considered as the best or second best on planet Yanhuang. Moreover, even on planet Yanhuang, there's one person who can be compared to us. The three-legged golden crow said. As it spoke, the flames on its body soared and contracted, emitting a dazzling brilliance like the scorching sun. It caused Duan Lingtian to feel a piercing pain in his eyes. He closed his eyes immediately. When Duan Lingtian opened his eyes again, he realized that the three-legged golden crow in front of him had disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by an old man in a golden robe. The old man was skinny, so skinny that he was only skin and bones. However, his eyes were shining brightly like two scorching suns hanging there. Duan Lingtian knew that this was the human form of the three-legged golden crow. Hualao, the person you're talking about. Is it the god of fire in the ancient myths and legends, Zhurong? Duan Lingtian looked at the old man and asked curiously. Yes, it's Zhurong. Hualao nodded. His heavenly fire is a flame of the same level as my fire of sun. Because he brought fire and light to the people of the secular world, he was honored by the later generations as the god of fire. Yes, Duan Lingtian nodded. He had also heard of the story that Hualao mentioned. Hualao, the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is a top immortal treasure. Even if it's damaged, it should still be helpful to me, right? Duan Lingtian asked. This was what he cared about the most. As the saying went, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Subconsciously, he felt that the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda would be of great help to him. Of course, Hualao nodded. Although the cultivation environment on the first level of the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda is ordinary, the flow of time here is twice as slow as outside. Twice as slow? What does that mean? Duan Lingtian was momentarily stunned. It means 1 day outside is equivalent to 2 days on the first level of the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda. Hualao said. 1 day outside is equivalent to 2 days on the first level of the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda? This time, Duan Lingtian finally reacted. His face was filled with shock and disbelief. In other words, I've cultivated here for 2 days, but only 1 day has passed outside? That's right. Hualao nodded. After obtaining Hualao's confirmation, Duan Lingtian's heartbeat suddenly sped up. It was getting faster and faster. When he entered the first level of the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda, he could clearly feel that the cultivation environment here was much better than Half Moon Island. As for how much better it was, he would only know after he cultivated here. The cultivation environment is good, and the flow of time is slow. This is a treasure trove for cultivation. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath, and only then did his rapid heartbeat slow down a little. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian asked Hualao about the rebirth. It should be known that he had already completed the rebirth through the 10,000-year stalactite milk. Although the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda had used the energy that it had accumulated for many years to help him break through 3 levels in one go and reach the 9th level Emperor Wu stage. However, this should not be considered as a rebirth, right? The rebirth you're talking about is merely reaching the limit of a mortal's body. Right now, even the original body of the little devil dragon that left earlier can't compare to yours. Hualao said. When Duan Lingtian heard Hualao calling Di Yong a little devil dragon, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. That was a 5-clawed devil dragon. He was one of the direct descendants of the dragons, a 5-clawed divine dragon. Hualao, you said his original body can't compare to mine. What do you mean? Duan Lingtian asked. As far as he knew, the body of dragons, especially the body of a 5-clawed divine dragon, was one of the best in the entire Dao Martial Saint land. Let alone humans who were born with weak bodies. Even other powerful demon beasts could not compare to them. Hualao said. Right now his body might be stronger than yours, but that's only because his cultivation base is higher. If your cultivation base is the same as his, your body will definitely be stronger than his original body. In the past, Duan Lingtian had learned about this from the current Di Yong, who used to be Wang Ba. The strength of a martial or Dao cultivator's body was closely related to their cultivation base. It was not only the original body of the dragons that would be strengthened as their cultivation base increased. Even a human's body would be strengthened as their cultivation base increased. However, the improvement of a human's body was far inferior to the improvement of a dragon's original body. Even if a human had broken through to the saint stage, their body would not even be comparable to a 3-clawed divine dragon at the early mortal shedding stage, let alone a 5-clawed divine dragon. However, Hualao said his body was stronger than the original body of a 5-clawed divine dragon at the same cultivation base. How could he not be shocked? Hualao, why you? Is what you said true? Chapter 1340. After obtaining Hualao's confirmation, Duan Lingtian was excited for a long time. One must know that the strength of one's body would affect one's strength to a certain extent. If humans and dragons of the same cultivation base, techniques, and saint veins were compared, the dragons would have the upper hand due to their strong bodies. If it was a 5-clawed divine dragon, it would not be a problem for him to cross ranks to fight an enemy. After a long time, Duan Lingtian finally calmed down. He asked again, Hualao, how powerful are you now? I don't know. Hualao shook his head. I'm not sure about the cultivation base levels in this world. However, I only need to exhale a breath to kill that little devil dragon from before, so that he can never be reincarnated. When Duan Lingtian heard Hualao's words, the corner of his mouth twitched violently. Exhale a breath to kill Di Yong? One must know that Di Yong was a powerful being at the intermediate mortal shedding stage. The golden-robed old man in front of him was merely the three-legged golden crow, the pagoda spirit of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda, who had yet to recover from his injuries. It seems like Hualao's strength must be above the saint stage, Duan Lingtian speculated. At the same time he was guessing, he felt a wave of excitement in his heart, and joy appeared on his face. Did this mean that from today onwards, he would have a super fighter by his side? Before the seven treasures exquisite pagoda is fully repaired, even if you're the owner of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda, you can't let me leave the seven treasures exquisite pagoda. As though he saw through Duan Lingtian's thoughts, Hualao said in a timely manner. At once, Duan Lingtian felt as though a bucket of cold water had been poured on him. He completely sobered up and smiled wryly. How long will it take for the seven treasures exquisite pagoda to be fully repaired? Hualao, apart from the first level of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda, having a good cultivation environment and a slow flow of time, does it have any other benefits? Duan Lingtian asked, unwilling to give up. He was determined to squeeze out the remaining value of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda. No. Hualao shook his head. Can't I hide in the seven treasures exquisite pagoda when I'm in danger? Duan Lingtian asked again, his face full of unwillingness. The seven treasures jewel pagoda contained a universe within it. If one was in danger, one could hide in it, and no one would be able to do anything to him. Before the fourth level of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda is repaired, if someone tries to flip the seven treasures exquisite pagoda while you're inside, you'll be thrown out immediately. Hualao said. When that time comes, won't you be able to hold me back, Hualao, and prevent me from being blasted out? Duan Lingtian was still a little unwilling. I can't. Hualao shook his head. Hualao's reply completely dispelled Duan Lingtian's thoughts. You said before the fourth level of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda is repaired. Are you implying that after the fourth level is repaired, I won't be thrown out? Duan Lingtian recalled Hualao's words and could not help but ask. That's right. Hualao nodded. Why? Duan Lingtian asked again. Only at that time will the inner space of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda be more than half stable and not affected by the outside world. Hualao said. The seven treasures exquisite pagoda has a total of 7 levels. After 4 levels are repaired, the inner space will be more than half stable. After Hualao's explanation, Duan Lingtian was enlightened. I have to repair the 2nd to 4th levels as soon as possible. Duan Lingtian's heart jolted as he thought to himself. At that time, he could be considered to have a protective talisman. No matter how powerful the enemy was, he could enter the seven treasures exquisite pagoda to take refuge. That's not right. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian seemed to have recalled something and asked, Hualao, back then, why didn't pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li Jing hide in the seven treasures exquisite pagoda? At that time, the seven treasures exquisite pagoda should be intact, right? Since it was intact, the space inside would naturally be stable, and he could take refuge in it. At that time, the enemy Li Jing faced was so powerful that it exceeded your imagination. Even if he hid in the seven treasures exquisite pagoda, he couldn't escape death in the end. Not only that, the seven treasures exquisite pagoda would have fallen into the enemy's hands. When Hualao spoke up to this point, there was a hint of fear in his eyes. He was afraid of the enemy Li Jing faced at that time. I see. Duan Lingtian nodded. However, on this planet of yours, there shouldn't be anyone who can destroy the seven treasures exquisite pagoda. Therefore, as long as you can repair the 4th level, it's equivalent to you standing in a place of immortality. Hualao said. Of course, the prerequisite is that you can react in time and enter the seven treasures exquisite pagoda before someone kills you. Duan Lingtian nodded. If there's nothing else, I'll begin repairing the 2nd level of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda. Hualao said to Duan Lingtian. Hualao, can I bring people into the seven treasures exquisite pagoda? Duan Lingtian asked. You're the owner of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda, so naturally, you can bring people in as you wish. However, with your current strength, It's best that you don't expose the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda so easily to avoid being hated by others. Hualao said. Hualao, don't worry. The people I bring in will definitely be people I trust. Duan Lingtian said. That's good. I'm just giving you a suggestion. Hualao said again. Hualao, can I bring people into the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda by force? For example, if I encounter an opponent I can't defeat, I'll bring him in, and you'll help me kill him. Duan Lingtian asked with an expectant expression on his face. This was something he had just thought of. Before the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is completely repaired, the people you want to bring into the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda won't be able to enter unless they're willing. Hualao's words completely dispelled Duan Lingtian's wretched thoughts. Duan Lingtian smiled bitterly. Hualao, do you mean that as long as the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is completely repaired, I can bring people in by force? Duan Lingtian asked again. A complete 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is a powerful immortal supreme treasure with both offensive and defensive capabilities. As long as it's not someone who's too much stronger than you can use the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda to suppress him and lock him in there. Hualao said. As long as you lock him in, I can help you kill him. What if you can't beat him? Duan Lingtian asked with a strange look in his eyes. If I can't beat him, I'll hide on another floor. Anyway, he can only hang around on the floor where he's locked up. Hualao said in a straightforward manner. Duan Lingtian was speechless when he heard this. How could this work? Hualao, I have another question. Is it possible for me to return to planet Yanhuang in the future? Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and asked in a somewhat solemn tone. Planet Yanhuang was Earth. In the past, the hope of returning to Earth was slim. He suppressed the obsession in his heart to kill the guy who betrayed him. Now, when he encountered the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, his heart was restless again. It's not possible. It's definitely possible. Of course, the premise is that your strength must be improved. Only then can you return to planet Yanhuang. Hualao said. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he heard this. As long as his strength improved, he could return to planet Yanhuang? At this moment, Duan Lingtian only felt his heartbeat accelerate, and the blood in his whole body was boiling. At this moment he had a new goal, and this goal was to return to Earth. I hope you won't be so short-lived. Unknowingly, a cold light flashed in Duan Lingtian's eyes as he muttered to himself. Soon, Duan Lingtian's thoughts moved, and in a flash he returned to the room. I really didn't expect I would meet you in this world. Looking at the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda in front of him, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but smile. He was in a good mood now. Soon, the smile on Duan Lingtian's face froze. This was because he realized he couldn't put the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda into his spatial ring. Hualao, what's going on? Duan Lingtian used his voice transmission to pierce into the first level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda and asked. The space in your spatial ring is only a low-level space, and it can't store living things. However, I'm in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, so your spatial ring can't store it. Hualao explained. I almost forgot. Duan Lingtian smiled awkwardly. He felt that he had lost his mind. He had long known that the spatial ring couldn't store living things. You can shrink the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda and put it in your ear, just like how Monkey Sun hit his Jingu Bang. Just when Duan Lingtian didn't know how to deal with the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, Hualao's voice sounded again and reminded him. Monkey Sun? Jingu Bang? The corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth twitched when he heard Hualao's words. Hualao, the Monkey Sun you're talking about. Is it the great sage, Heaven's equal Sun Wukong, who once wreaked havoc in the heavenly palace? That's right. It's that horse protector. Hualao replied. That horse protector is amazing. Back then, when he wreaked havoc in the heavenly palace, Li Jing once suppressed him in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, but not long after he escaped. Looks like the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda isn't much, Duan Lingtian said. It's not that the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda isn't much, but the person who used the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda isn't much. If it were the original owner of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, Horse Protector wouldn't have been able to escape. Hualao said. The original owner of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda? When Duan Lingtian heard this, he began to search the memories of his previous life on Earth. The original owner of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda you're talking about is Dipankara Buddha? It's that old monk Dipankara. Hualao replied. There was a hint of resentment in his voice. Duan Lingtian was not surprised by the resentment in Hualao's voice. If the ancient legends in his previous life were true, Hualao was imprisoned in the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda by Dipankara Buddha and became the pagoda spirit of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. No matter who it was, they would resent those who restricted their freedom. If that's the case, the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is really not that simple. Duan Lingtian nodded and asked, Hualao, I heard that the great sage, Heaven's Equal Sun Wukong's Rui Jingu Bang is also very impressive. I wonder how it compares to the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda? The Rui Jingu Bang is an immortal supreme treasure on the same level as the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. However, in terms of attack, none of the immortal supreme treasures can compare to it. Chapter 1341. If I'm lucky enough to meet the great sage Sun Wukong in the future, my life would not be in vain. Duan Lingtian exclaimed. The great sage, Heaven's Equal Sun Wukong, was definitely the most popular character in the ancient myths and legends of his previous life. You might have a chance in the future. Hualao said. However, you're still too far away from that level now. Don't think too much about it, just cultivate well. After Hualao finished speaking, he did not make a sound and went to repair the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Duan Lingtian nodded. After shrinking the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda to the size of a baby's fingernail, Duan Lingtian casually stuffed it into his ear and stuck it inside. This way, no matter what he did, the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda would not fall out. When he walked out of his room, Duan Lingtian saw the two little girls sitting together and chatting. The two girls' eyes lit up when they saw Duan Lingtian coming out. Scoundrel! You rushed back to your room when you came back earlier. Did you have a realization and a breakthrough in your ability? Li Fei asked curiously. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded with a smile. He did not tell them about the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda for the time being. It was too unbelievable to the two girls. It was better to let them know about it in the future. Young master, you've broken through to Emperor Wu Stage 7? Ker's beautiful face was filled with admiration. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded again. He did not tell them that he had broken through to Emperor Wu Stage 9. If he did not know how frightened the two girls would be. Duan Lingtian only parted ways with the two girls after spending half a day with them. I'm going to look for the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island. He left as soon as he finished his sentence. Speaking of which, the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were gathered together. Vice Island Masters. Duan Lingtian took the initiative to greet the 3 of them as soon as he appeared. Island Master. Although the 3 Vice Island Masters, including Xiao Kuan, refused to accept Duan Lingtian as the new master of Half Moon Island, they dared not disregard Duan Lingtian, as they were bound by the oath. However, when they addressed Duan Lingtian, the new island master of Half Moon Island, they did not address him as Lord. For example, they addressed Di Yong as Lord Island Master with great respect. Humph! Duan Lingtian coldly snorted. His sharp gaze fell on the 3 of them as he said in a deep voice. It seems that the 3 of you don't really respect me, the new island master. Facing the enraged Duan Lingtian, the 3 of them directly ignored him. I'll give all of you a chance. The 3 of you will join forces to fight me. If you can withstand 3 of my moves without being defeated, I'll give up my position as the island master of Half Moon Island. Duan Lingtian said. If that's the case, you won't be breaking your oath. Xiao Kuan and the other 2 did not expect Duan Lingtian to say that. They were a little surprised at that moment. There was a glimmer of hope in the depth of their eyes. If they had a choice, naturally, they did not want to be inferior to Duan Lingtian. However, if all of you lose, I hope that you'll respect me as much as you respect Di Yong, Duan Lingtian said coldly. Sure. Xiao Kuan and the other two agreed immediately without any hesitation. In their opinion, Duan Lingtian was like a newborn calf who was not afraid of a tiger. Defeating them in 3 moves? What a fool's dream. They more or less knew Duan Lingtian's ability. Although he was not bad, he was still a long way away from them. Humph! Seeing that Xiao Kuan and the other two had agreed, Duan Lingtian snorted. He raised his hand, and a royal-grade spirit bow and arrow appeared. He held the bow in one hand, and the arrow in the other. As soon as the bowstring appeared, Duan Lingtian pulled the bowstring into the shape of a full moon, before releasing the arrow in his hand. Whoosh! Instantly, the arrow pierced through the air like a bolt of black lightning. Body and arrow synchronization. At the same time, Duan Lingtian strode forward and landed lightly on the black lightning bolt. His speed became faster and faster as he moved with the black lightning. In the end, he turned into a series of afterimages in front of Xiao Kuan and the other two. At this moment, Xiao Kuan and the other two's expressions turned grave. Putting everything else aside, based on Duan Lingtian's current speed, he was no longer inferior to them. However, they still did not think that Duan Lingtian would be able to defeat them. Based on the speed that Duan Lingtian displayed, Duan Lingtian's ability was at most on par with any one of them. It was almost impossible for him to defeat the 3 of them together, let alone defeat them in 3 moves. Let's go. After the 3 of them glanced at each other, they moved in unison. With a speed that was not inferior to Duan Lingtian, when he executed the body and arrow synchronization, they shot in 3 different directions and formed a circle that flashed towards Duan Lingtian. This is a good opportunity to test how strong my body is now. Faced with the 3 menacing opponents, Duan Lingtian's expression did not change. A faint 5-colored light shield slowly appeared around his body to protect him. If one looked closely, one would see that the 5-colored light shield was formed by 5-colored divine dragons that were moving at high speed. 9 Dragons Protection. The skill that Duan Lingtian was using was the Heaven-class Advanced Defensive Martial skill that came with the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique. After the 5-colored light shield rose, Duan Lingtian stopped moving. The arrow at his feet was back in his hand. You're courting death. Seeing that Duan Lingtian had stopped moving and was holding up a defensive light shield to block their attack, Xiao Kuan and the other two could not help but sneer inwardly. Their movements did not slow down at all as they shot out like lightning. Boom, 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 boom. 3 figures flashed towards Duan Lingtian from 3 different directions at lightning speed. They either used their fists or palms, and when they waved their hands, it set off a series of thunderous air explosions. In the blink of an eye, their fists and palms landed on the 5-colored light shield around Duan Lingtian's body. Bang, 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 bang. As the loud sounds reverberated, waves of rolling shockwaves were emitted, and the 5-colored light shield shattered. At the same time, Xiao Kuan and the other two's attacks landed on Duan Lingtian's body. Bang, bang, bang. 2 fists and 1 palm landed on Duan Lingtian's body, making 3 dull sounds. On the other hand, Duan Lingtian's expression did not change. He was calm and composed. So this is the body that's even more powerful than a 5-clawed divine dragon's body? The 3 of them are at the peak of Emperor Wu stage. They didn't use any spirit weapons. Their fists and palms only felt like they were tickling me when they landed on my body, after a portion of their strength was offset by my defensive martial skill. Duan Lingtian's heart jolted. He finally realized how terrifying the changes in his body were. Duan Lingtian knew his current strength very well. The reason his speed was on par with Xiao Kuan and the other two's was because he had cast the body and arrow synchronization from the Saint-grade martial tactic, Colossal Aerolite Arrow. He had already cultivated the body and arrow synchronization to the fundamental awareness stage. As for his defense, it was impossible for him to block Xiao Kuan and the other two's attacks, since he did not cast any defensive techniques from the Saint-grade martial tactic. However, he managed to block them now. All of this was because his body's defense was very strong. His body was no longer comparable to the body of an ordinary human Emperor Wu. With the help of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, he was reborn. According to Hualao, his body was even stronger than a 5-clawed divine dragon. In fact, the strength of a 5-clawed divine dragon's body was well known even in the Dao Martial Saint Land. In the entire Dao Martial Saint Land, there were only a handful of people whose body was comparable to a 5-clawed divine dragon. How's this possible? Horror dawned on Xiao Kuan and the other two's faces when they realized their attacks were blocked by Duan Lingtian's body. They looked at Duan Lingtian as though they had seen a ghost. Although a portion of their attacks were blocked, the energy contained in it was still extremely terrifying. They thought Duan Lingtian would be severely injured even if he did not die. However, the result was completely out of their expectations. Duan Lingtian was not injured at all. Was he still AF * king human? Was a human's body so monstrous? Now it's my turn, Duan Lingtian said nonchalantly. His voice was calm, but it shocked Xiao Kuan and the other two's faces. When they regained their senses, they saw Duan Lingtian had already shot an arrow at lightning speed. He had also flown away with the arrow in just a blink of an eye. They sighed in relief when they saw this. However, soon after, they saw Duan Lingtian suddenly turned around when he moved to the side. His eyes were extremely sharp when he looked at them. At the same time, he raised the bow in his hand. Oh no! Horror dawned on the three's faces as they hurriedly took out their respective spirit weapons. They knew Duan Lingtian was going to counterattack. First move. The moment the three's spirit weapons entered their hands, before they could dodge, Duan Lingtian's calm voice resonated in their ears again. It sent chills down their spines. Arrowlight strike. At the same time, the arrow in Duan Lingtian's hand flew out. It was so fast that Xiao Kuan and the other two did not even have time to react. Whoosh, whoosh. 2 streaks of blood splattered. Xiao Kuan and the other Vice Island master of Half Moon Island had their shoulders pierced, leaving behind 2 hideous bloody holes. Blood gushed out continuously. Just one arrow had injured 2 people. The 2 injured men looked at each other, a bitter smile on their lips. They knew very well that Xiao Kuan was merciful. This was after the other party had shown mercy. Otherwise, the arrow just now would not have pierced through their shoulders but their chests. Second move. When the last Vice Island master of Half Moon Island regained his senses and began to flee, Duan Lingtian spoke again and shot out the arrow in his hand. Arrowlight strike. Since he could injure 2 people with 1 arrow, it was even easier to injure 1. In the blink of an eye, the shoulder of the last Vice Island master of Half Moon Island was also pierced. 3 people were defeated in 2 moves. Relying on the movement technique that he had cultivated to the first stage of the Saint Grade martial tactic, novice initiation, Duan Lingtian's speed was on par with Xiao Kuan and the other 2. Relying on his strong body, Duan Lingtian could withstand the attacks of Xiao Kuan and the other 2. Relying on the attack technique that he had cultivated to the second stage of the Saint Grade martial tactic, intermediate, Xiao Kuan and the other 2 could not withstand Duan Lingtian's attacks at all. Island Master. At this moment, while Xiao Kuan and the other 2 were shocked, they were also convinced. They sincerely regarded Duan Lingtian as the new Island Master of Half Moon Island. Chapter 1342. There's something I need all of you to do. Duan Lingtian spoke calmly and ordered Xiao Kuan and the other 2 to send people to look for materials to repair the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Apart from using Half Moon Island's strength, we also need to use the strength of the other 3 overseas Saint Islands. I'll be going on a long trip soon. I'll inform the other 3 overseas Saint Islands and Hidden Fog Island. As for the other 2 overseas Saint Islands, I'll leave them to you. Duan Lingtian's words contained an indisputable tone. He left as soon as he was done speaking, leaving Xiao Kuan and the other 2 with his back to them. Our new island master of Half Moon Island is too terrifying. Xiao Kuan sucked in a breath of cold air. That's right. It's only been such a short time, and his ability has already surpassed ours. I suspect he's not human at all. If he's human, how could he withstand our attack with his body? The other 2 Vice Island masters gasped as well. They were shocked from the bottom of their hearts when they recalled the earlier scene. When Duan Lingtian left, he had a lot of thoughts in his mind. Now that my cultivation base has broken through to the 9th level Emperor Wu stage, due to the fact that the profundity that I've comprehended is slightly weaker. In terms of origin energy and profundity, I'm far from Xiaokuan and the other two. However, I've cultivated the Saint Grade Martial Tactic, Colossal Aerolite Arrow. The movement technique in the Colossal Aerolite Arrow, that I've cultivated to the fundamental awareness stage, has made up for the difference in speed between me and them, allowing my speed to be on par with theirs. Also, with my current body, as long as they don't use spirit weapons, I'll be able to withstand their attack with brute force. Of course, this is also because they haven't cultivated the Saint Grade Martial Tactic. If they had cultivated the Saint Grade Martial Tactic, my body definitely wouldn't be able to take it when they cast the offensive techniques in it. Among the Colossal Aerolite Arrow, the Aerolite Strike is the first technique that I've cultivated. It's also the highest level of offensive technique currently. With it, my attack power far surpasses Xiaokuan and the other two. The battle just now allowed Duan Lingtian to have a better understanding of his own strength. The most important thing now is to elevate the two profundities. I heard from Xuanai that the martial artists on Cloud Continent must first comprehend one of the Emperor stage profundities to the 9th level if they want to break through to the mortal shedding stage. At that time, I'll use the 9th level Emperor stage profundity as a medium to fuse all the profundities into my body and use them as a boost to open my saint veins. Once a saint vein is opened, it means that one has broken through to the early mortal shedding stage. Any 9th level Emperor Wu powerhouse who had comprehended a 9th level Emperor stage profundity was known as a peak Emperor Wu powerhouse. For example, the 3 deputy island masters of Half Moon Island, the first island masters of the 3 overseas Saint Islands, were also experts of this level. After returning to the mansion, Duan Lingtian learned that Han Xuanai was in closed-door cultivation. According to the 3 little fellows, Han Xuanai was breaking through to the mortal shedding stage. All of you get ready. When your sister Xuanai comes out of closed-door cultivation, we'll return to Cloud Continent. Duan Lingtian said to Little Black, Little White and Little Gold. The 3 little fellows' eyes lit up when they heard that. They had long wanted to leave this godforsaken place. On Cloud Continent, apart from the powerhouses from the 2 great ancient clans, there was almost no one who was more powerful than them. Therefore, they were like fish in water on Cloud Continent. They could do whatever they wanted. However, when they arrived at Half Moon Island, they realized that there were many people who were more powerful than them on this palm-sized island. For the next period of time, apart from accompanying the 2 little girls, Duan Lingtian spent the rest of his time comprehending the fused profundity and the sword profundity in peace. Soon, Duan Lingtian discovered something that shocked him. He realized that no matter if it was comprehending the fused profundity or the sword profundity, the speed at which he comprehended it was terrifyingly fast. It only took him half a month to break through the fused profundity and the sword profundity. It took him another 2 months to break through the 2 profundities again. Hualao, do you know what's going on? Duan Lingtian could not help but ask Hualao. He had a feeling that this had something to do with the second rebirth of his body. Hualao's answer was just as he had guessed. His body had been reborn for the second time. Not only was his body's strength stronger than the 5-clawed divine dragon, but his perception was also much stronger than before. It was not something an ordinary person could compare to. According to Cloud Continent's saying, the speed at which one comprehended profundity depended on the level of one's comprehension. In fact, it depended on one's perception. Those with strong perception would comprehend profundity very quickly. On the contrary, it would be very slow. This was also the reason why the original island master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong, could break through to the mortal shedding stage so quickly even though he did not enjoy the cultivation resources of the dragons. As a 5-clawed devil dragon, a top 5-clawed divine dragon, his perception was extremely terrifying due to his powerful body. However, Duan Lingtian's body was even more powerful than his at this moment. Naturally, his perception was even more terrifying. When Han Xuanai came out of closed-door cultivation, Duan Lingtian's sword profundity had taken a step forward. He had comprehended the 8th level Emperor stage sword profundity. Xuanai, you've broken through? Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up as he looked at Han Xuanai, whose childishness had faded a little, and whose temperament had changed drastically. Yes. Han Xuanai nodded with a smile. How many saint veins have you opened? Duan Lingtian asked curiously. 10. Han Xuanai replied. The moment her words left her mouth, the smile on her face grew wider. She had opened 10 saint veins at the early mortal shedding stage. Such innate talent was considered outstanding even in the Dao martial saint land. One should know that when a martial or Dao cultivator at the mortal shedding stage opens saint veins, the more saint veins they opened. Han Xuanai had opened 10 saint veins when she was at the early mortal shedding stage. In the 4 subsequent breakthroughs, she opened more saint veins at each level compared to the previous ones. When she was at the intermediate mortal shedding stage, she could open at least 11 saint veins. When she was at the mastery mortal shedding stage, she could open at least 12 saint veins. And so on. When Han Xuanai broke through to the paramount mortal shedding stage, she could open at least 60 saint veins. 60 was just a conservative estimate. Martial or Dao cultivators in the Dao martial saint land, who had opened more than 50 saint veins, would break through to the saint stage sooner or later, as long as they did not die prematurely and did not encounter any accidents. Due to this reason, Han Xuanai was very satisfied and happy. After all, although she was a native of the Dao martial saint land, she did not cultivate according to the cultivation method of the natives of the Dao martial saint land. Her cultivation method was the same as the cultivation method of the martial and Dao cultivators on the mortal continent. The advantage was that her foundation was deep. Of course, her cultivation speed was slow as well. However, her efforts were rewarded. Breaking through to the early mortal shedding stage and opening 10 saint veins was the best reward for her. Xuanai, congratulations. Duan Lingtian was slightly shocked. After that, he quickly congratulated Han Xuanai. He was happy for her. Opening 10 saint veins at the early mortal shedding stage. Xuanai's future was limitless. Thank you, Brother Lingtian. At this moment, Han Xuanai could not stop smiling. Since Xuanai had come out of closed-door cultivation, Duan Lingtian told her about his plan to return to the Cloud Continent. I plan to move the Lingtian sect to Half Moon Island when I go back this time. Half Moon Island is indeed the best place to cultivate outside of the Dao martial saint land. With this place as the foundation, the Lingtian sect will become a real super sect sooner or later. Han Xuanai agreed with Duan Lingtian's plan. She already had feelings for the Lingtian sect. During the days when Duan Lingtian was missing, she was the acting sect leader of the Lingtian sect. She controlled the Lingtian sect on behalf of Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian left Half Moon Island with Han Xuanai and the 2 girls, the 3 little fellows and Han Xuanai. After leaving Half Moon Island, they did not return to the Cloud Continent directly. Under Duan Lingtian's lead, the group of people went to the Hidden Fog Island again. They immediately found Tang Zhen, the first island master of Hidden Fog Island. Island Master Tang, where's first revered Elder Chi Hua of the Hidden Fog Island. Duan Lingtian went straight to the point. Seeing that Han Xuanai was next to Duan Lingtian, Tang Zhen, who had witnessed Han Xuanai killing the first island master of Coral Island with the Dao Talisman, did not dare to be negligent. Elder Chi Hua was taken away by the people from the Dao martial saint land some time ago. People from the Dao martial saint land. Duan Lingtian frowned. What about the girl he brought back from the Cloud Continent? She was taken away as well. Tang Zhen said. People from the Dao martial saint land? Why did they take them away? Han Xuanai asked. I think it's because they used to have the fire spirit body. I'm not sure about the details. Tang Zhen said. I see. It seems like one of the forces from the Dao martial saint land has taken a fancy to their fire attribute innate talent. Han Xuanai nodded. When she reached the end of her sentence, she muttered to herself, as though she had figured out something. As someone from the Dao martial saint land, it was only natural that she knew some things that ordinary people did not know. Xuanai. However, Duan Lingtian was confused. He did not know what was going on at all. Brother Ling Tian, Sister Tian, Wu must have been taken in by one of the forces from the Dao Martial Saint Land. That force must have taken a fancy to her innate talent of having the fire spirit body. Han Xuanai said. Didn't the fire spirit body's energy in her body disappear a long time ago? Duan Lingtian frowned. Brother Ling Tian, I've already told you that she used to have the fire spirit body. Han Xuanai interrupted Duan Lingtian and emphasized the word used to. The body of a person who used to have the fire spirit body will be affected and become more inclined towards the fire attribute. Whether it's the fire attribute cultivation method or the fire attribute saint grade martial tactic, this kind of person's progress will be much faster than ordinary people. Han Xuanai continued. I see. At this moment, Duan Lingtian finally understood. As it turned out, Tian Wu's innate talent was taken in by one of the forces from the Dao Martial Saint Land. Do you know which force in the Dao Martial Saint Land it is? Chapter 1343. Even Tang Zhen, the island master of Hidden Fog Island, did not know which force in the Dao Martial Saint Land had taken Feng Tianwu away. Duan Lingtian could not help but sigh. However, one thing's for sure. Tianwu is safe now. Duan Lingtian secretly sighed in relief when he thought of this. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian asked Tang Zhen to help him look for the materials he needed to repair the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda. Whether it was out of fear of Han Xuanai's methods or Half Moon Island's prestige, Tang Zhen did not dare to slack off when it came to Duan Lingtian's request. He immediately ordered the entire Hidden Fog Island to search for the materials. When Tang Zhen found out that Duan Lingtian had become the new island master of Half Moon Island, he was so shocked that he could not regain his senses for a long time. At this time, Duan Lingtian also found out that the group of Emperor Wu and Demon Emperor powerhouses from Cloud Continent had returned to Cloud Continent. Whether it's the 3 overseas Saint Islands or the 3 great mortal continents, including Cloud Continent, all of them suffered great losses during the trip to Half Moon Island. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. The scene that had happened before his eyes was still vivid in his mind. The original island master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong, had used his devil technique to absorb the vital essence and killed 85 outstanding powerhouses in their prime from the 3 overseas Saint Islands and the 3 great mortal continents. Soon after, Duan Lingtian and the rest left Hidden Fog Island. After leaving Hidden Fog Island, they returned to Cloud Continent directly. Along the way, Han Xuanai, the powerhouse at the early mortal shedding stage, brought Duan Lingtian and the rest. Their speed was so fast that Duan Lingtian could not compare to it. When Duan Lingtian came, it was Yang Hui, the spirit profound Emperor Wu, who brought them along. Yang Hui's cultivation base was only at the 4th level Emperor Wu stage. In terms of speed, he was a far cry from Han Xuanai. With Han Xuanai's speed, it only took a few days for Duan Lingtian's group to traverse the vast sea and smoothly return to Cloud Continent. Along the way, because their speed was too fast, they didn't even alarm the powerful demonic beasts in the sea. After Duan Lingtian and the others arrived at the northern outer continent of the Cloud Continent, they continued on their journey. They passed through the Ruoshui River and successfully arrived at the inner land of the Cloud Continent. Xuanai, I would like to ask the 2 great ancient clans to help me find those materials. After returning to the mainland, Duan Lingtian said to Han Xuanai, It's a small matter. Han Xuanai smiled casually. To her, getting help from the 2 ancient clans was indeed a trivial matter. Little gold, little black, little white. Go and ask the other Yao emperors for help. Duan Lingtian said to the 3 kids. All right. The 3 kids' eyes lit up. To them, this was a fun thing. If any Yao emperor or Emperor Wu dared to refuse to cooperate, they would have an excuse to attack. They had been on Half Moon Island for such a long time that they were bored out of their minds. Duan Lingtian was confident in the strength of the 3 little fellows. Even if they encountered the most powerful Qing Xian Emperor Wu and Demon Emperor Man Wu on the surface, they might not be a match for them. Moreover, Qing Xian Emperor Wu knew them and would definitely cooperate with them. As for Demon Emperor Man Wu, After witnessing Han Xuanai's techniques, even if he was more powerful than them, he would not dare to refuse to cooperate with them. After Han Xuanai and the 3 kids left, Duan Lingtian brought the 2 girls to the Lingtian sect's new encampment. He had already found out the location of the Lingtian sect's new encampment from Han Xuanai. The new encampment of the Lingtian sect was a towering mountain peak. Han Xuanai named it Lingtian Peak. I'll bring you back to pay respects to senior sister Yang Shui first. Duan Lingtian reached out his hands and held the 2 girls' hands tightly. He brought them all the way to the Lingtian sect's encampment. The original encampment of the Lingtian sect was also where the Yin-Yang sect used to be. When Ke and Li Fei heard Duan Lingtian's words, their eyes turned red. At this moment, they couldn't help but think of their senior sister, who sacrificed her life for them. Feeling that the 2 girls' emotions were a little unstable, Duan Lingtian held their hands a little tighter. At the same time, he comforted them. If senior sister Yang Shui knew that you 2 were still alive and well, she would be able to rest in peace even in the underworld. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian brought along the 2 little girls and flew swiftly like a shooting star that soared through the sky. His speed was so swift that it was shocking. Boom! 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 Suddenly, a loud sound rang out and entered the ears of Duan Lingtian and the other 2. The sound was getting closer and closer. It was the sound that came from in front of Duan Lingtian and the other 2. It was obvious that someone was fighting. Duan Lingtian didn't intend to pay attention to it. However, as a loud and clear voice sounded, it caused him to abruptly stop in his tracks. Following that, his expression became solemn. "Qiyu, today is the day you die." This thunderous shout was also the reason why Duan Lingtian stopped. "Qiyu." Ke and Li Fei looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. They were not unfamiliar with this name. They still remembered it. When Duan Lingtian and the other 2 were talking about their past, they had mentioned a third-rate force in the eastern region of the northern desert in the southern outer land of Cloud Continent. That third-rate force was a sect called the 5-Element sect. The 5-Element sect was divided into 5 peaks: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Among them, the peak master of Wood Peak was called Qiyu. Their man had a deep relationship with the 5-Element sect's Wood Peak. Could it be just a coincidence? Li Fei asked. Whether it's a coincidence or not, we'll know once we go and have a look. Duan Lingtian replied. In just a blink of an eye, he brought the 2 girls to the place where the sound of fighting was coming from. There were 3 sturdy middle-aged men besieging a person. In the sky, the heaven and earth phenomenon was turbulent. Silhouettes of ancient black dragons gathered and galloped. However, such a scene could not be seen in the 4 overseas Saint Islands. However, Duan Lingtian's attention was not on this. Peak Master Qiyu. Although Duan Lingtian could only see the back of the person besieging the person, he could still recognize him with just a glance. He was the former peak master of the 5-Element sect's Wood Peak Qiyu. That person who had helped him a lot in the past. Currently, Qiyu had suffered quite a serious injury while being besieged by 3 people. He was in a perilous situation. If this continued, it would not take long for him to be killed. After confirming that the person before him was Qiyu, Duan Lingtian vanished into thin air. When he reappeared, he was already next to Qiyu. Boom! At the same time, a vast and rolling shockwave swept out and blasted the 3 people besieging Qiyu away. The 3 of them shot out like arrows that were shot out from a bow. They were battered and exhausted. Along the way, blood continued to spurt out from their mouths. The blood splattered across the sky, and it was extremely dazzling. After flying for a distance, the 3 of them finally came to a halt. Their faces were as pale as a sheet of paper. It was only after they consumed the healing medicinal pill that their injuries were slightly better. You, who are you? Subsequently, the 3 of them regained their senses. Their eyes were filled with fear and dread when they looked at Duan Lingtian. The 3 of them were the Demon Emperor's direct disciples. However, they were easily sent flying by a person. It was obvious that this person's cultivation base was at the Emperor stage. It was either the Demon Emperor or Emperor Wu. At this moment, Qiyu had also consumed the healing medicinal pill and recovered his breath. Initially, he thought he would definitely die today. However, he did not expect someone to save him. After he recovered his breath, the first thing he did was to look at his savior. "Thank you, benefactor, for saving." However, he was stunned before he could finish his sentence. He recognized the purple-clad young man in front of him with just a glance. Compared to the past, he did not seem to have changed at all. If there was anything different about him compared to the past, it would be the change in his temperament. Currently, his temperament was unfathomable in his eyes. Duan Ling. Qiyu looked at Duan Lingtian in disbelief. His voice was filled with astonishment. When Duan Lingtian saw that Qiyu was so shocked that he could not even call out his name, he smiled and interrupted him. "Peak Master Qiyu, it's been a long time. I can't believe that you've already entered the peak of the martial monarch stage when we meet again. So what if I'm at the peak of the martial monarch stage? Compared to you, I'm not even worth mentioning." Qiyu sighed. His gaze was complicated. Previously, when he first met Duan Lingtian, he did not think much of Duan Lingtian's strength at all. Moreover, with his strength at that time, he only needed to lift a finger to crush Duan Lingtian. However, he was ashamed of his inferiority when it came to Duan Lingtian's martial Dao innate talent. When they parted ways at the entrance of the Emperor Wu's secret treasure, he knew that Duan Lingtian would shock him the next time he met Duan Lingtian. However, it did not cross his mind that Duan Lingtian would shock him to this extent when they met again. All these years, he felt that the improvement of his strength could be considered as good. Currently, he had even broken through to the peak of the Emperor Wu stage. He was only one step away from breaking through to the Emperor Wu stage and becoming an Emperor Wu powerhouse. However, even then, he still could not compare to the current Duan Lingtian. Needless to say, he could guess that Duan Lingtian's cultivation base had already broken through to the Emperor Wu stage. Otherwise, he would not have been able to send the 3 people who had joined forces to attack him flying in just an instant. If only one of these 3 people was a match for him, they would not be able to defeat him at all. However, he would not be able to handle the 3 of them when they joined forces. Earlier he thought he would definitely die. However, he did not expect that someone would save his life at the critical moment. This person was none other than Duan Lingtian. "The 3 of us are Lord Demon Emperor Man Wu's direct disciples. May I know which Lord Demon Emperor or Emperor Wu you are?" One of the 3 muscular middle-aged men cupped his hands and asked Duan Lingtian. When he mentioned Demon Emperor Man Wu, a hint of arrogance could be seen on his face. Demon Emperor Man Wu was one of the 2 strongest Emperor stage powerhouses on Cloud Continent. Among the Demon Emperor powerhouses on Cloud Continent, he was second to none. No demon could compare to him. As a direct disciple of Demon Emperor Man Wu, it was only natural that he was proud of himself. Demon Emperor Man Wu's direct disciple? Duan Lingtian glanced at the 3 of them indifferently and said, "You don't deserve to know who I am. However, since you've injured Peak Master Qiyu, I'll let Peak Master Qiyu decide your fate." Demon Emperor Man Wu's expression turned grave when he heard this. The trip to Hidden Fog Island and Half Moon Island earlier had caused him to lose a few outstanding direct disciples. Due to this reason, he valued the remaining few direct disciples very much. Now that he heard someone wanted to kill his direct disciples, he was completely enraged. However, although he was enraged, he did not lose his mind. He began to scan his surroundings as though he was looking for something. "There's no need to look. The person you're worried about isn't here." Naturally, Duan Lingtian knew what Demon Emperor Man Wu was looking for. It was none other than to see if Han Xuanai was by his side or not. Previously, when Han Xuanai killed the first island master of Coral Island with the Dao Talisman, Demon Emperor Man Wu was present as well. He had witnessed it with his own eyes. Due to this reason, he was wary of Han Xuanai. "You want to kill my direct disciples?" Demon Emperor Man Wu's expression turned cold when he heard that Han Xuanai was not around. He glared at Duan Lingtian and asked coldly, "Aren't you going to ask me why I want to kill them?" Duan Lingtian asked curiously. "There's no need to ask. No matter who it is, anyone who wants to kill my direct disciples will have to pay the price. Demon Emperor Man Wu enunciated each word clearly. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness, as though he was about to devour someone. His personality of protecting his disciples was clear for all to see. How domineering! As expected of Demon Emperor Man Wu, Duan Lingtian said nonchalantly with a hint of mockery in his tone. Duan Lingtian, I admit that your innate talent is not bad. Unfortunately, you're nothing in front of me now. Demon Emperor Man Wu's expression turned gloomier. When he reached the end of his sentence, he was filled with disdain. Yes, one must know one's place. However, I think it's even more important to know one's place as a demon. What do you think? Duan Lingtian asked calmly. Demon Emperor Man Wu's expression remained unchanged. Faced with Duan Lingtian, who was not afraid of him, the furious Demon Emperor Man Wu's heart skipped a beat. It was as though a bucket of cold water had been splashed on his head. He sobered up a little and thought to himself, what makes this Duan Lingtian so audacious? Demon Emperor Man Wu began to observe his surroundings again. Duan Lingtian could not help but laugh when he saw Demon Emperor Man Wu's actions. However, he did not say anything to Demon Emperor Man Wu. Instead, he looked at Qi Yu and said, Peak Master Qi Yu, if you want to kill the three of them, I can do it on your behalf at any time. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the expressions of Demon Emperor Man Wu's three direct disciples changed drastically. On the other hand, Qi Yu was shocked. At this time, Duan Lingtian still dared to say that he wanted to kill the three direct disciples of Demon Emperor Man Wu. Peak Master Qi Yu, I'll take your silence as a yes. Since that's the case, I'll kill the three of them to avenge you, Peak Master Qi Yu. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he glared at the three direct disciples of Demon Emperor Man Wu with a cold glint in his eyes. You're deliberately mystifying things. Demon Emperor Man Wu, who had confirmed that there was no one around, snapped back to his senses. He glared at Duan Lingtian and shouted in a low voice. When he noticed Duan Lingtian's killing intent toward his three direct disciples, horror dawned on him as he flew out. Unfortunately, he was still too late. Bang! 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 With three explosions, the three direct disciples of Demon Emperor Man Wu exploded into a bloody mist, leaving behind three spatial rings and a pile of profundity fragments. After catching the spatial rings and profundity fragments, Duan Lingtian raised his hand and used an invisible force to guide them to land in front of Qi Yu. Clearly, he wanted to give these spoils of war to Qi Yu. Duan Lingtian. At this moment, Demon Emperor Man Wu, who was enraged by the death of his three direct disciples, was on the verge of going berserk. He roared and charged toward Duan Lingtian. At this moment, it was as though he had transformed into a primordial beast with his mouth wide open. It was as though he would not stop until he had devoured Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian snorted in the face of Demon Emperor Man Wu, who was charging toward him. His expression did not change at all. It was not until Demon Emperor Man Wu arrived in front of him that he finally made a move. He raised his hand, and a strong bow appeared in his hand out of thin air. Then, he placed his hand on the bowstring. Buzz! As he pulled the bowstring into a full moon and released it, a loud noise reverberated in the air. It was accompanied by a rolling and vast shockwave that tore through the sky and met Demon Emperor Man Wu's attack head-on. In just a blink of an eye, Demon Emperor Man Wu's attack was completely neutralized by the shockwave. Not only that, but the vast shockwave also landed on Demon Emperor Man Wu and sent him flying. Demon Emperor Man Wu flew for dozens of meters before he finally came to a stop. He held back the blood that almost flowed out of his mouth. After he caught his breath, he forced the blood back into his stomach. Even at this moment, he still tried his best to maintain his image. However, his pale complexion betrayed him. Demon Emperor Man Wu took a deep breath and consumed a healing pill. His injuries finally eased a little. When he regained his senses and looked at Duan Lingtian again, there was only fear in his eyes. At this moment, he had completely given up on avenging his three direct disciples. What a joke! The strength that Duan Lingtian had displayed earlier was far from what he could compare to. No matter how hard he tried, he would not be able to avoid a tragic death. Therefore he chose to give up. Perhaps this way he could escape death. Duan Lingtian, I didn't ask clearly earlier. Now that I think about it, the three of them must have offended your friend. It's understandable that you killed them. In order to survive, Demon Emperor Man Wu took the initiative to admit defeat. At this moment, there was only shock in his heart. He had never expected this. He did not know when this purple-clad young man, whom he had not taken seriously in the past, had become stronger than him. The strength that Duan Lingtian had displayed earlier was far from what he could compare to. Since it's a misunderstanding, let's end this matter here. Duan Lingtian said. He had no intention of making things difficult for Demon Emperor Man Wu. Alright. Demon Emperor Man Wu hurriedly nodded. He could not wait for such an ending. However, there's something that I want to ask for your help with. I'm sure you won't refuse, right? Duan Lingtian said without beating around the bush. The two of them who had been at each other's throats a moment ago were now sitting together and chatting calmly. Seeing this, Qiyu was stunned. Of course not. Demon Emperor Man Wu hurriedly shook his head with a smile on his face. As for what was behind the smile, only he knew. Demon Emperor Man Wu, if you can do your best to help, I'll consider how to reward you. If you can help, I'm willing to take out the Saint Stone to thank you. Chapter 1345. Duan Lingtian promised Demon Emperor Man Wu a Saint Stone. As long as Demon Emperor Man Wu could find the materials he needed, he was willing to give Demon Emperor Man Wu a Saint Stone. Naturally, Demon Emperor Man Wu was overjoyed. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, Demon Emperor Man Wu bade farewell and left in a hurry. Scoundrel, why didn't you kill him? Li Fei frowned. She did not like Demon Emperor Man Wu's arrogant attitude. Keeping him alive is 1,000 times better than killing him. He's the strongest demon emperor on Cloud Continent. His influence is extraordinary. With his help, the efficiency of searching for materials will be much higher. Duan Lingtian said. Demon Emperor Man Wu, I'm afraid all the demons in the inner land of Cloud Continent will work for him if he gives the order. Kerr said softly. That's exactly what I want. Duan Lingtian nodded. Whether it's the two great ancient clans or Qing Xian's Emperor Wu, they might be the best in terms of rallying power among human martial artists. However, those wild and unruly demons wouldn't pay any attention to them. With Demon Emperor Man Wu's help, it'll naturally be different. This was the reason Duan Lingtian was willing to promise Demon Emperor Man Wu a Saint Stone. In the eyes of the demon beasts in the inner land of Cloud Continent, Demon Emperor Man Wu was no doubt an emperor. Who would dare to disobey an emperor's order? Moreover, demon beasts were more efficient than human martial artists in searching for materials. Demon beasts lived in the wilderness, so they might have seen the materials in the past and know where to find them. Duan Lingtian was doing his best to repair the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Naturally, he was also doing his best to repair the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda as soon as possible. According to the 3-legged golden crow, Hualao, even if he only repaired the 2nd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, he would still be able to obtain the celestial supreme treasure, the Jasper Celestial Sword. The Jasper Celestial Sword was an offensive celestial supreme treasure with extraordinary power. In addition, Duan Lingtian also learned that, as long as he repaired the 2nd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, he would be able to ascend to the 1st level to cultivate. The 2nd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda had an even better cultivation environment. In addition, the flow of time was even more exaggerated. 3 days in the 2nd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was only 1 day in the outside world. Therefore, regardless of whether it was for the Jasper Celestial Sword or for a better cultivation environment, Duan Lingtian wanted to help Hualao repair the 2nd floor of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda as soon as possible. Qi stood aside, speechless for a long time. His gaze descended upon Duan Lingtian, and it was extremely complicated. The arrogant and unruly young man in the past had already achieved so much. Even Demon Emperor Man Wu, who was known as the strongest demon emperor on Cloud Continent, was not a match for him. Peak Master Qiyu, how did you offend Demon Emperor Manwu's personal disciple? Duan Lingtian looked at Qiyu and asked curiously. It's all because of this spirit artifact. Qiyu waved the narrow sword in his hand and smiled wryly. The narrow sword looked very ordinary, but it exuded a fierce aura, as though it could tear everything apart. With just a glance, Duan Lingtian recognized it. It was a royal-grade spirit sword. After searching through Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory, Duan Lingtian soon found out that this was one of the Reincarnation Emperor Wu's works. This sword is a treasure. Duan Lingtian smiled. You can tell? Qiyu was a little surprised. In fact, even he only knew how extraordinary this sword was after he used it. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded and changed the topic. Peak Master Qiyu, did you travel alone in the inner land? You didn't join any sect or family. No. Qiyu shook his head. I left the five-element sect because I didn't want to be tied down. After all these years, I've gotten used to being idle. That's not bad. However, you still have to be careful when you travel outside, especially the sword in your hand. Don't let other people see how extraordinary it is, so that it won't cause any trouble. Duan Lingtian reminded Qiyu. In the future, Peak Master Qiyu, if you're tired outside, you can go to the Lingtian sect anytime. When you arrive at the Lingtian sect, you just have to say that you're my friend. Duan Lingtian said. Lingtian sect. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Qiyu's eyes narrowed. Are you talking about the #1 sect on Cloud Continent, the Lingtian sect? I've long heard that Duan Lingtian, the sect leader of Lingtian sect, has gone missing. Everyone in Lingtian sect is looking for him everywhere. Don't tell me that you're the sect leader of Lingtian sect? Although he had long heard that the sect leader of Lingtian sect was also called Duan Lingtian, Qiyu thought it was just a coincidence. In his opinion, no matter how high the innate talent of the Duan Lingtian Qiyu knew was, it was impossible for him to become the sect leader of the #1 sect on Cloud Continent in just a few years. He thought that he was just a person with the same name as the Duan Lingtian Qiyu he knew. However, now that he heard Duan Lingtian's words and recalled the strength that Duan Lingtian displayed earlier, he could not help but associate the Duan Lingtian Qiyu knew with the sect leader of Lingtian sect. Yes, the Lingtian sect is my sect. Duan Lingtian nodded. At the same time, he seemed to have recalled something and continued to say, the two brothers, Nangong Chun and Nangong Yi, are currently in the Lingtian sect as well. Nangong Chun and his brother were the direct disciples of the sect leader of Five-Element sect. Initially, they were at Lingxian Peak where the spirit profound Emperor Wu, Yonghui cultivated. According to Xuanai, they went to the Lingtian sect after that. I didn't expect this. I really didn't expect that Duan Lingtian Qiyu would actually be the sect leader of the #1 sect on Cloud Continent. Qiyu sighed as he shook his head. Qiyu shook his head and sighed. In the end, he asked solemnly, Duan Lingtian, your current cultivation base should be above the 8th level Martial Emperor stage, right? As far as he knew, Demon Emperor Manwu was at the 7th level Demon Emperor stage. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded his head. After that, both of them chatted for a while before parting ways. Before that, Duan Lingtian introduced the two girls to Qiyu. Qiyu could not help but exclaim, Duan Lingtian, you're really a winner in life. Wasn't that so? Not only did Duan Lingtian have a heaven-defying innate talent, but he was already standing at the peak of Cloud Continent at such a young age. Even his two fiancées were one in a million beauties. After parting ways with Qiyu, Duan Lingtian brought the two girls and continued to head to the original Yin Yang sex estate. That place was still considered as the Lingtian sex estate. However, it had already become a branch. Two people were in charge of this branch. Duan Lingtian had already heard about this from Xuanai when they were still on the road. These two people were also the ones who were unwilling to leave back then. Xiong Quan and Gold Thug. Young Master. Master. Xiong Quan and Gold Thug were a little excited when they saw Duan Lingtian again. In fact, the reason they stayed here was because they stubbornly believed that Duan Lingtian would definitely return. Now Duan Lingtian had indeed returned. Miss Kerr, Miss Fair. Subsequently, Xiong Quan looked at Kerr and Li Fei and greeted them respectfully. He was no stranger to Kerr and Li Fei. He knew that they were his young master's fiancés. His young master had spent a lot of effort to search for these two girls. However, he did not find them in the end. Mistress, was Xiong Quan's reminder. Gold Thug regained his senses and quickly bowed to Kerr and Li Fei. Kerr and Li Fei nodded, while they forced a smile on their faces. A hint of anxiety could be seen in their eyes. Seeing how anxious the two girls were, Duan Lingtian brought them to the wooden house where Yang Shue's body was placed. With the ice coffin, Yang Shue's body was still intact. Senior sister. When the two girls saw the white-clad lady lying in the ice coffin, 2 streams of tears rolled down their beautiful faces. There was only guilt on their faces. After all, Yang Shui had died protecting them. Senior sister, the scoundrel has avenged you. You can rest in peace in the netherworld now, Li Fei said softly. Senior sister, Sister Fei and I are fine. Don't worry. We'll live well and not let you down. Kerr was sobbing. Upon seeing this, Duan Lingtian shook his head and sighed before he left. In the next few days, Duan Lingtian did not disturb the two girls and allowed them to accompany Yang Shui. During this period of time, apart from cultivating, he also refined some pills for Xiong Quan and Gold Thug. As Duan Lingtian's people, Han Shu and I did not treat them badly after she became the acting sect leader of Ling Tian sect. Due to this reason, their cultivation base was not low at all. 10 days later, 3 figures stood at the peak of the former Yin Peak of the Yin Yang sect, which was now Ling Tian Peak. They were none other than Duan Lingtian, Kerr, and Li Fei. In front of them stood 2 tombstones. One of the tombstones was Yang Shue's tombstone. The other tombstone belonged to the former Vice Peak Master of Yin Peak of the Yin Yang sect, who was also the master of Kerr, Li Fei, and Yang Shui. The Vice Peak Master of Yin Peak of the Yin Yang sect was also the elder sister of Peak Master Qin Xiang of the 7-Star Sword sect. Duan Lingtian had never seen her before. However, she was the master of the two girls after all, and she was very good to them. Due to this reason, he still bowed to her tombstone. Facing Yang Shue's tombstone, Duan Lingtian bowed solemnly. Senior sister Yang Shui, thank you. If it wasn't for you risking your life to protect them, I might not have been able to see these two girls. When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, he bowed deeply. After Yang Shui was buried, Kerr and Li Fei guarded her tomb for another 3 months. During these 3 months, they just sat cross-legged in front of the tombstone and waited quietly. It made Duan Lingtian's heart ache. 3 months was enough for many things to happen. Duan Lingtian's strength had improved. In terms of sword profundity, he had successfully comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity. In terms of fused profundity, he had comprehended the 8th level fused profundity. Now I can be considered to have entered the peak of the Emperor Wu stage. As long as I can use the sword profundity as a medium to merge the 2 great profundities into my body and open up a saint vein, I'll be considered to have entered the mortal shedding stage. Chapter 1346. Duan Lingtian still could not figure out what the fused profundity was. Back then, when the 5 monarch stage nature profundities were fused together, it became the fused profundity. Its power was comparable to an emperor stage profundity. Puzzled, Duan Lingtian decided to ask the 3-legged golden crow, Hualao, in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. After entering the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, Duan Lingtian saw Hualao sitting cross-legged in the air with his eyes closed. He did not know if he was cultivating or resting. When Duan Lingtian entered, Hualao had already opened his eyes. Duan Lingtian asked the question in his heart. Profundity? Hualao raised an eyebrow. It was his first time hearing this term. After all, the cultivation system was more or less different in every place. Profundity was just a term used on Cloud Continent. Perhaps it was not the same in the other 2 mortal continents. It's this energy. When Duan Lingtian raised his hand, the 5-colored energy gathered and transformed into a 5-colored ball of light that hovered in the air. This is the fused profundity I'm talking about. Also, this is the sword profundity. Duanling Tian raised his other hand as well, and a translucent sword that emitted waves of fierce aura hovered above his palm as it spun continuously. So this is the profundity you were talking about. Hualao glanced at it and nodded. The profundity you mentioned is similar to the 5 elemental qi on planet Yanhuang. Once the 5 elemental qi completely fuses into one's body, one's potential will be stimulated, and one's strength will increase by leaps and bounds. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he heard Hualao's words. What Hualao said was similar to the meaning of the profundity. According to Xuanai, once the profundity completely fused into one's body, one would be able to open up a saint vein. At that time, the profundity would become a part of one's body and no longer be independent. This was similar to the 5 elemental qi that Hualao mentioned. Your sword profundity seems to have reached the limit of the 5 elemental qi. As for the fused profundity, it seems to be reaching its limit. However, I can clearly feel that it still has a lot of potential that hasn't been unearthed. Elder Hua's gaze landed on the 5-colored ball of light floating in the air. As he spoke, a hint of doubt appeared on his face. A lot of potential? Duan Lingtian's heart jolted when he heard that. He thought to himself, don't tell me. The current fused profundity is only at the monarch stage? Profundity. The more he thought profundity, the more to Lingtian's. Wasn't this a little too ridiculous? The profundity was Proy's profundity. If it could be upgraded to the profundity, how powerful would it be? 10 times more powerful than the profundity? What did that mean? Duan Lingtian felt goosebumps all over his body when he thought about it. If it's possible, I hope you can make a breakthrough after you've fully unearthed the potential of the fused profundity. At that time, the benefits you'll reap will be unimaginable. Hualao pondered for a moment before he said to Duan Lingtian, wait until I've fully unearthed the potential of the fused profundity. Duan Lingtian frowned. If the 8th level fused profundity that he had comprehended was only at the 8th level monarch stage fused profundity, would he not have to comprehend the 9th level emperor stage fused profundity to fully unearth the potential of the fused profundity? From the 8th level monarch stage fused profundity to the 9th level emperor stage fused profundity. Heavens! How long would that take? However, Duan Lingtian believed Hualao's words. Who was Hualao? The 3-legged golden crow, the divine sun bird from the ancient myths and legends in his past life. To put it bluntly, there was no reason for someone like that to lie to him. Moreover, he was the owner of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda now. As the pagoda spirit of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, it was impossible for Hualao to harm him. There was no reason for him to do so. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and voiced his concerns. The time needed to comprehend the 9th level emperor stage fused profundity was too long. It's true that it'll take a little longer. However, you can cultivate in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Time passes slower in there. Hualao told Duan Lingtian. On the first level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, 2 days inside is only 1 day outside. Also, if you can find enough materials, I'll be able to repair the 2nd level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. At that time, when you cultivate on the 2nd level, 3 days inside is only 1 day outside. Hualao continued. That's the only way. Duan Lingtian nodded. He had decided not to use the 9th level sword profundity as a medium to open the hidden saint veins in his body for the time being. He would wait until he had comprehended the 9th level emperor stage fused profundity. Fused profundity, I only hope you'll give me a pleasant surprise when the time comes. Duan Lingtian comforted himself inwardly. He knew that from the moment he made this decision, he was destined to open the saint veins a little later, to break through to the mortal shedding stage. At the same time, a strong premonition rose in Duan Lingtian's heart. His decision might affect the number of saint veins he opened in the future. In this case, I should have a chance to surpass Wang Ba. Wang Ba opened 23 saint veins at the intermediate mortal shedding stage. Even Xuanai won't be able to open 23 saint veins when she breaks through to the intermediate mortal shedding stage. She'll only be able to open 22 saint veins at most. The Wang Ba that Duan Lingtian mentioned was naturally Wang Ba. He was also the current Di Yong who had left Half Moon Island and gone to the Dao Martial Saint Land. The reason he was so confident was that he was no longer who he was in the past. Not only had he undergone a second rebirth, but his foundation was also extremely solid. What a joke! In terms of foundation, what else could compare to the fused profundity? I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be great if I can open 81 saint veins. Duan Lingtian's eyes gleamed. He was having a sweet dream in his heart. It was a dream that he subconsciously thought was impossible to come true. In fact, in the long history of the Dao Martial Saint Land, there were only 3 people who had opened 81 saint veins. Although he had not experienced it himself, he could roughly guess how difficult it was to open 81 saint veins. This was due to Hua Lao's reminder and his determination. In the next period of time, Duan Lingtian focused all his attention on comprehending the fused profundity. Comprehending the fused profundity was the only thing he could do now. No matter if it was his cultivation base or his sword profundity, he had already reached his limit. There was no way he could continue to improve it. What a coincidence! The sword Dao comprehension that originated from the word sword in my mind was completely digested when I comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity. Duan Lingtian muttered. It seems like it's time to go back and take a look at the word sword. I wonder if my profundity of the sword will continue to improve when I see the word sword again and comprehend more about the sword Dao. In terms of the sword profundity, Duan Lingtian had already comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity. Logically speaking, he had already reached his limit. However, in Duan Lingtian's opinion, the word sword profundity was different. However, the word sword could not be looked at with common sense. He had a deep understanding of this in the past. The 2 girls guarded Yang Shui's coffin for 3 months. They only left after 3 months had passed and returned to Duan Lingtian's side. Let's return to the southern outer land. After informing the 2 girls, Duan Lingtian bade farewell to Xiong Quan and the gold thug, and left with the 2 girls. Although Xiong Quan and the gold thug wanted to leave with Duan Lingtian, they dismissed the thought when they thought of Ke and Li Fei. Would it not be tactless to follow them at this time? Duan Lingtian brought the 2 girls and passed through the vast and boundless Ruoshui River before they arrived at the southern outer land. Sigh. After returning to the southern outer land, Duan Lingtian sighed as he recalled the past. At this moment, he recalled the Lu clan that was annihilated by the Han clan. The Lu clan that he had stayed in for a period of time was gone just like that. Ke and Li Fei stayed by Duan Lingtian's side quietly without saying a word. At this moment, silence spoke louder than words. If the Han clan's disciple who annihilated the Lu clan was still alive, Duan Lingtian would immediately find him and kill him to avenge the Lu clan. However, the Han clan's disciple had already died in Han Xuanai's hands. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian could only reminisce about the Lu clan in the past. As long as Lu Bai's still around, the Lu clan's roots are still intact. I'll help him rebuild the Lu clan this time. At this moment, Duan Lingtian recalled Lu Bai. Lu Bai, the second young master of the Lu clan, was also a survivor after the Lu clan was annihilated. After that, he crossed the Ruoshui River to the inner land and entered the Ling Tian sect, and became a member of the Ling Tian sect. After letting out another long sigh, Duan Lingtian brought the 2 girls and left the land of Beiki in the southern outer land. With Duan Lingtian's current speed, it did not take long for him to step onto a familiar land. The northern desert. Previously, when he first left the Dark Han dynasty, he came to the northern desert to participate in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties, organized by the third-rate force Skywolf Fort in the northern desert. When the martial competition of the 10 dynasties began, he truly stepped onto the stage of Cloud Continent. Looking back, Duan Lingtian could not help but sigh even though he had lived 2 lives. Without staying in the northern desert, Duan Lingtian brought the 2 girls back to the Dark Han dynasty, to the Darkstone Empire, to the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, and finally to the 7-Star Sword sect. After a few years, The 7 sword peaks in the 7-star sword sect's estate that soared into the sky had also returned to how it used to be. It did not look like the sect had been annihilated. High up in the sky, Duan Lingtian stood there and looked at the 7 sword peaks. A hint of nostalgia flashed in his eyes. On the other hand, the 2 girls standing next to him had their eyes red. They were so emotional that their delicate bodies began to tremble slightly. They had left this place for far too long. When they left, they would never have thought that this would happen. Chapter 1347. Kerr, go see Peak Master Qin Xiang. She's surely missed you very much these past few years. Duan Lingtian said to Kerr. Kerr nodded when she heard Duan Lingtian, then flew out and directly entered Dubhe Peak, the head of the 7 great sword peaks. Scoundrel, I want to erect a tombstone for Master and Senior Sister, Li Fei said in a light voice. Even though she'd long since found out from Duan Lingtian that her 7-star sword sect's master, Elder Bai, and Senior Sister, Zhuqing, had already died. But now that she was reminded of the past, she still felt slightly sad. I've already erected the tombstone that day. It's at Elder Bai's original cultivation place, Duan Lingtian said. At that time, when the 7-star sword sect was rebuilt, he and the current sect leader of the 7-star sword sect, Mou, and the others had erected tombstones for the 7-star sword sect higher-ups that had passed away. Scoundrel, Li Fei felt sorrow from the bottom of her heart when she heard Duan Lingtian, and she threw herself into Duan Lingtian's embrace, as 2 streams of clear tears flowed down to wet Duan Lingtian's clothes. But Duan Lingtian didn't mind. He hugged Li Fei with one hand, and his other hand patted Li Fei's soft and smooth back. Little Fei, Elder Bai and Senior Sister, Zhuqing surely don't wish to see you like this. Under Duan Lingtian's consolation, Li Fei's mood gradually recovered. Subsequently, Li Fei and Duan Lingtian went to Alcate Peak together, and they went to Elder Bai's original cultivation place. Although no one had lived in Elder Bai's original cultivation place for many years, the environment inside was still the same as before. Those flowers and plants were obviously frequently trimmed by people. Mou is quite considerate. Duan Lingtian nodded. He knew that it was surely Mou who asked people to frequently trim the flowers and plants here. In front of the wooden house, there were 2 tombstones. It was precisely the tombstone of the former Alcate Peak's Elder Bai and her disciple Zhuqing. Master, Senior Sister, Scoundrel has taken revenge for both of you and rebuilt the 7-star sword sect. All of you can rest in peace in the underworld. Li Fei stood in front of the tombstone and said softly. Her tears kept falling, making her look very pitiful. Duan Lingtian stood to the side, looking at the 2 steels in front of him in a daze. At this moment, the scenes of the 7-star sword sect being annihilated appeared in his mind. Even now, when he recalled that scene, his heart couldn't help but tremble. Although he'd already taken revenge for them, it was impossible for them to come back to life. They'd left him, and the 7-star sword sect forever. Duan Lingtian silently bowed deeply towards Elder Bai and Zhuqing's tombstones. Elder Bai, Senior Sister Zhuqing, rest assured, I will take good care of little Fei. Duan Lingtian spoke to the 2 tombstones. After paying their respects to Elder Bai and Zhuqing, Duan Lingtian and Li Fei left Alcate Peak, and once again returned to the expanse of space they stood in when they came here. When they arrived there, Duan Lingtian instead noticed that Kerr had already returned. There was a familiar figure by Kerr's side. Qin Xiang, the peak master of the 7-star sword sect's Alcate Peak. Compared to that year, the current Qin Xiang hadn't changed much. This was sufficient to show that she'd taken good care of herself. After all, only by breaking through to the martial monarch stage would one be able to maintain one's youth forever. Before the martial monarch stage, although the higher one's cultivation was, the slower one aged. But if one didn't take care of it, the traces of time would still be left behind on one's appearance. Duan Lingtian, you really don't intend to see the sect leader? Qin Xiang's gaze was extremely complicated when she saw Duan Lingtian once more. Earlier, she'd already heard Kerr speak of the accomplishments Duan Lingtian had obtained in these past few years. And she even knew that Duan Lingtian was now the sect leader of the #1 sect on Cloud Continent. Besides shock, there was only shock in her heart. That little fellow from all those years ago had actually already stood at the peak of Cloud Continent at this moment. When she recalled the past, she even had a feeling as if she was dreaming. If they knew about this in the netherworld, they would surely be able to close their eyes in peace. Qin Xiang thought to herself. They naturally referred to the group of 7-Star Sword sect members that had perished along with the annihilation of the 7-Star Sword sect, including the former sect leader of the 7-Star Sword sect, Linghu Jinhong. Not for now. The 7-Star Sword sect will always be the 7-Star Sword sect. Duan Lingtian shook his head as he spoke. Yes. Qin Xiang nodded, as she was naturally able to discern the meaning behind Duan Lingtian's words. It was undoubtedly because he didn't want to interfere with the future of the 7-Star Sword sect. If the members of the 7-Star Sword sect knew that Duan Lingtian was now the sect leader of the #1 sect on Cloud Continent, the Lingtian sect, they would surely hope that the 7-Star Sword sect would submit to the Lingtian sect. At that time, the 7-Star Sword sect would become a vassal of the Lingtian sect, existing in name only. Yet that wasn't something that Duan Lingtian wanted to see happen. Master, you're really not leaving with me? Kerr looked at Qin Xiang with an expression of reluctance. Although her current cultivation far surpassed Qin Xiang. But as the saying goes, a master for a day is a mother for life. The kindness of teaching her in the past was something that she didn't dare forget for her entire lifetime. Earlier, Kerr had advised Qin Xiang to leave, but was refused by Qin Xiang. Kerr, I know you're filial. However, I've spent most of my life in the 7-Star Sword sect, and I can't leave it. Qin Xiang held Kerr's hand lovingly and said gently, when you have a child with Duan Lingtian, remember to come back and visit me often. Kerr was so embarrassed that her cheeks flushed when she heard Qin Xiang's words. Under Qin Xiang's gaze, Duan Lingtian left with the 2 little girls. In just a blink of an eye, they had already appeared in the sky above the Crimson Sky Kingdom, an affiliate kingdom of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. The Crimson Sky Kingdom was their hometown. Duan Lingtian's purpose for returning this time was very simple. He wanted to visit his old friends and ask them if they were willing to leave with him and head to the overseas Saint Island, Half Moon Island. After returning this time, Duan Lingtian brought the 2 little girls to the imperial city's Divine Might Marquis estate to meet the 2 old marquises. The reason he said there were 2 old marquises was because Nie Wu Tian, the former Divine Might Marquis, had already retired. The current Divine Might Marquis was Nie Fun, the junior marquis back then, and he was also Duan Lingtian's big brother Nie. Time flew by, and the world changed. Duan Lingtian was deeply moved by his return this time. Not only did Nie Fun have a house full of children, but even Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun also had a house full of children. What was worth mentioning was that Li Xian, the former little fatty, also had 3 sons and a daughter. Besides that, Duan Lingtian made a trip to the imperial palace to meet the old emperor. The old emperor who was valiant in the past was getting old, and he had already passed on the throne a few years ago. Duan Lingtian, do you know when Bai Yao will be back? The old emperor asked as he looked at Duan Lingtian anxiously. The Bai Yao that the old emperor mentioned was naturally the former #1 beauty in the Crimson Sky Kingdom's imperial city, Princess Bai Yao. I don't know either. However, if I see her, I'll ask her to come back to see you. Duan Lingtian replied. Good. The old emperor's face was filled with smiles when he heard this. Princess Bai Yao was his most sensible daughter, and he loved her dearly. Even those princes could not compare to her. If Princess Bai Yao was a man, he would have passed the throne to her long ago. Father and mother are really too much. They actually took Princess Bai Yao away. Duan Lingtian could not help but smile wryly when he thought about Princess Bai Yao's whereabouts. Not only Princess Bai Yao, but his father and mother had also taken Xiao Yu's sister, Xiao Lan, away as well. When he met Xiao Yu earlier, Xiao Yu had also asked about Xiao Lan's whereabouts, but he really did not know anything about it. To be more precise, although he knew Xiao Lan was in the Dao Martial Saint Land, he did not know where in the Dao Martial Saint Land she was. Unfortunately, The voice transmission jade slip in the exquisite jade box was damaged by me. Otherwise, I'll definitely be able to see Mother, Xiaolan, and Princess Bai Yao when I arrive at the Dao Martial Saint Land and meet with the person that father has arranged for me. Duan Lingtian could not help but sigh when he thought about this. Originally, in the voice transmission jade slip that Duan Ruffing had left for Duan Lingtian, he had told Duan Lingtian to look for the person that he had arranged for him somewhere in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Unfortunately, the voice transmission jade slip was damaged, and the most important part was lost. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian did not know where to look for the person that his father had arranged for him. Currently, even if Duan Lingtian went to the Dao Martial Saint Land, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack if he wanted to look for his father. After leaving the Imperial Palace, Duan Lingtian went to Paladin Academy to see the Dean Sima Changfeng. Sima Changfeng was his teacher in Paladin Academy. Although he did not teach him anything, he had helped him a lot. He had always been grateful to him, so he had always treated him as his teacher. Little fellow, what level has your cultivation reached now? Sima Changfeng asked directly when he saw Duan Lingtian again. This was the thing that interested him the most every time he saw Duan Lingtian. Emperor Wu stage 9th level. Duan Lingtian smiled. Pooh. When Sima Changfeng heard Duan Lingtian's words, he spat out the tea that he had just sipped. His face was slightly flushed as he asked, What did you say? Martial Emperor Wu stage. 9th level Emperor Wu stage? Yes, teacher. Duan Lingtian nodded solemnly. When Sima Changfeng heard this, he studied Duan Lingtian from top to bottom, as though he was looking at a monster. He muttered. Although I knew you're a freak, I didn't expect you to be so freakish. Emperor Wu stage 9th level. That's the limit a martial artist can reach, right? Sima Changfeng had long heard that the peak of a martial artist was the Emperor Wu stage. Once one had broken through to the Emperor Wu stage, one would be an Emperor Wu stage powerhouse. An Emperor Wu stage powerhouse was an existence that stood at the peak of Cloud Continent and looked down on all living things. To him, an Emperor Wu stage powerhouse was an existence that only existed in legends. However, the little fellow standing before him, his former student, was actually an Emperor Wu stage powerhouse. Moreover, he was in existence at the 9th level of the Emperor Wu stage. At this moment he wondered if he was dreaming. Chapter 1348. In the past, I also thought that the 9th level Emperor Wu stage was the limit of a martial artist. However, this is not the case. Duan Lingtian sighed. What do you mean by that? Don't tell me there's someone more powerful than an Emperor Wu stage powerhouse? Sima Changfeng asked with a glare. In his opinion, an Emperor Wu stage powerhouse was a legendary invincible existence. However, Duan Lingtian said that the 9th level Emperor Wu stage was not the limit? In other words, there was no doubt that there was someone more powerful than an Emperor Wu stage powerhouse. Teacher, in our Cloud Continent, the 9th level Martial Emperor realm is indeed considered to be at the peak. However, outside of the Cloud Continent, there's an even bigger world. Duan Lingtian patiently explained to Sima Changfeng about the things outside of the Cloud Continent, including the 4 great overseas Saint Islands, the other 2 mortal continents, and the Dao Martial Saint Land. As Duan Lingtian patiently explained, Sima Changfeng listened in a daze. At the same time, his heart was filled with shock. A frog at the bottom of a well, a frog at the bottom of a well. It seems like I, Sima Changfeng, am indeed a frog at the bottom of a well. After listening to Duan Lingtian's explanation, Sima Changfeng let out a long sigh with a self-mocking expression on his face. I should say that more than 99% of the people in the Cloud Continent are frogs at the bottom of a well. That includes me in the past. Duan Lingtian smiled wryly. Teacher, I came back this time mainly to ask if you're interested in going to the overseas Saint Islands. Once you're there, with the help of the superior cultivation environment, and my help, your strength will definitely improve rapidly. Duan Lingtian's tone was filled with temptation. At the very least, you'll be able to break through to the martial monarch stage. It's not impossible for you to break through to the Emperor Wu stage. Martial Monarch stage. Sima Chongfeng's breathing quickened when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. Can I? Why not? Don't forget, you're Duan Lingtian's teacher. Duan Lingtian said with a confident smile. If it was another person, he would not be so sure. However, Sima Chongfeng had a high innate talent and comprehension ability. With his help, it was not difficult for him to break through to the martial monarch stage. Emperor Wu's realm was not impossible. Lacking in talent? It's okay. In the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu, there was a record of the location of the 10,000-year stalactite. Once he went there and collected the 10,000-year stalactite milk, Sima Chongfeng would be reborn and possess the ultimate innate talent of a martial artist on Cloud Continent. Poor comprehension? It didn't matter. Intent realm fragments, Upanishad fragments, intent realm fragments. Good. I'll go with you. Sima Chongfeng's face was covered in smiles as he said with slight excitement. I, Sima Chongfeng, have persisted in the martial Tao all my life. Until now, I haven't married and have lived my entire life alone. If my cultivation is able to break through to the martial monarch stage, then I wouldn't have lived my life in vain. Sima Chongfeng had no attachments, and he agreed to leave with Duan Lingtian with a few words, whereas the others more or less had attachments. This also caused Duan Lingtian to come with 3 people and leave with 4 people, so there was only one extra person. This extra person was precisely Sima Chongfeng. As for the people that were unwilling to leave, Duan Lingtian respected their choice. He would return to see them when he was free in the future. At that time, if they wanted to leave, he would bring them along. After leaving the Crimson Sky Kingdom, Duan Lingtian's group arrived at the sky above a remote mountain forest in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. After a short while, Ke, Li Fei, and Sima Chongfeng descended from the sky under Duan Lingtian's lead. When the 3 of them landed on the ground and focused their eyes, they were completely stunned. All of this was because they were attracted by the word sword on the mountain wall in front of them. It was as though their souls were captivated by the word sword. The gigantic word was carved by Sword Saint Feng Qingyang in one smooth motion. This word sword contained Feng Qingyang's comprehension of the sword Tao. It was precisely because of this word that Duan Lingtian was able to successfully comprehend the 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity in an extremely short amount of time. The 9th level Emperor stage profundity was also a peak profundity. Lingtian boy. Suddenly, a familiar voice entered Duan Lingtian's ears. Uncle Feng. Duan Lingtian looked at the red-robed middle-aged man, who was cultivating cross-legged with his eyes closed, and greeted him with a light smile. The red-robed middle-aged man was none other than Feng Wu Dao. He was also Feng Tianwu's father. Hey! Feng Wu Dao stood up and immediately went to Duan Lingtian's side. He looked at Ke, Li Fei, and Sima Chongfeng with a puzzled expression on his face. Uncle Feng, they're my fiancés. I've mentioned them to you before. As for him, he's my teacher in my hometown. Duan Lingtian introduced him with a smile on his face. Yes. Feng Wu Dao nodded. Then he seriously sized up Ke and Li Fei. When he saw the 2 women's peerless appearances, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Both of them were not inferior to his daughter, Feng Tianwu, in terms of appearance. Kid Lingtian, where's Tianwu? She didn't return with you? Feng Wu Dao asked. When he heard Feng Wu Dao mention Tianwu, a guilty expression appeared on Duan Lingtian's face. Uncle Feng, I'm sorry. I didn't take good care of Tianwu. What's wrong with Tianwu? When he saw Duan Lingtian's guilty expression and apologizing to him, Feng Wu Dao had a bad premonition in his heart, and his face went grim. At the same time, the red robe on his body couldn't help but flutter as his origin energy shot into the sky and transformed into sword-shaped flames that emitted waves of fierce aura, as if it could break through everything. Don't worry, Uncle Feng, Tianwu is fine. Duan Lingtian hurriedly replied, as he was able to discern that Feng Wu Dao had misunderstood. Feng Wu Dao's expression eased up when he heard Duan Lingtian, and the sword-shaped flames on his body were restrained once more. Then what you meant earlier was, Uncle Feng, I said I didn't take good care of Tianwu because Duan Lingtian interrupted Feng Wudao and told him everything that happened afterward. Apart from concealing the fact that the Devil Seal Tablet was a famous super saint weapon on the 10 great saint weapons, ranking in the Dao Martial Saint land, he didn't conceal anything else, and told him everything without holding back. Feng Wudao instantly learned about Feng Tianwu's experience, and that Feng Tianwu had been taken in by a force in the Dao Martial Saint land. During this time, Duan Lingtian also explained the Dao Martial Saint land to Feng Wudao, causing Feng Wudao to be shocked as well. He felt like a frog at the bottom of a well. After learning that Feng Tianwu was safe and sound, Feng Wudao heaved a sigh of relief. Uncle Feng, I'll go to the Dao Martial Saint land after I've settled the matters on Cloud Continent. At that time, I'll look for Tianwu as well. Duan Lingtian told Feng Wudao, Uncle Feng, you can rest assured, I'll definitely find Tianwu. When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, he vowed solemnly, Don't worry, so long as Tianwu is fine, she'll come back sooner or later. Feng Wudao said. Duan Lingtian nodded. Uncle Feng, where's Erhu? Duan Lingtian glanced at the surroundings and didn't notice a sixth person, so he couldn't help but look at Feng Wudao and ask. Erhu was precisely that child from Bear Village. He was also the only person in Bear Village that knew the secret of this place. That kid, Erhu, is wandering outside whenever he has nothing to do. Presently, not only in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, but even in the Darkstone Empire, he can already be considered as a top figure. Chapter 1349. The comprehension of the sword Dao contained within the word sword attracted Kuer, Lifei, and Sima Chongfeng, causing them to be intoxicated and completely immersed in it. In the sky above the canyon, an inconspicuous pagoda stood on a lush green tree. This pagoda was Duan Lingtian's 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Duan Lingtian, who was cultivating on the first level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, woke up. He had been meditating to comprehend the fused profundity during this period of time. During this period, he tried to look at the word sword in the canyon. However, nothing happened like before. The word sword no longer sent any obscure information into his mind. Due to this reason, he could not store the sword Dao comprehension from the word sword anymore. Could it be because I've comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity? That's not right. According to Sword Saint Feng Qingyang's message, if someone can completely comprehend the sword Dao comprehension contained in the word sword, they'll be able to do whatever they want in the Dao Martial Saint land. After persisting for a few days, Duan Lingtian still could not figure out the reason. In the end, he could only give up and focus on comprehending the fused profundity. In just 4 months, Duan Lingtian had made 2 breakthroughs in his fused profundity. The first time, it broke through from the 8th level Monarch stage fused profundity to the 9th level Monarch stage fused profundity. The 9th level Monarch stage fused profundity was comparable to an ordinary 9th level Emperor stage profundity. Once it was unleashed, its strength was comparable to the strength of 10 ancient black dragons. The second time, the 9th level Monarch stage fused profundity broke through to the 1st level Emperor stage fused profundity. Its strength was twice as strong as before. It was comparable to the strength of 20 ancient black dragons. The 1st level Emperor stage fused profundity that I've comprehended is 10 times stronger than an ordinary 1st level Emperor stage profundity. When I comprehend the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity, it should be 10 times stronger than an ordinary 9th level Emperor stage profundity as well. An ordinary 9th level Emperor stage profundity was equivalent to the strength of 10 ancient black dragons. Duan Lingtian's 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity was just like that. On the other hand, once Duan Lingtian comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity, the energy it contained was equivalent to the strength of 100 ancient black dragons. The strength of 100 azure dragons. What did that mean? Even if a powerhouse at the peak of Emperor Wu's stage wields a royal-grade spirit weapon and unleashes his full strength, it's already considered shocking if his strength is equivalent to the strength of 60 to 70 ancient black dragons. Thinking of this, Duan Lingtian's heart suddenly trembled. As for me, once I've comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity, I'll be able to kill anyone at the peak of the Emperor Wu stage with ease. Thinking of this, Duan Lingtian's breathing quickened. Using just one profundity to kill a powerhouse at the peak of the Emperor Wu stage, who unleashed his full strength, without holding back. Even Duan Lingtian felt his scalp tingle just thinking about that scene. However, I've just comprehended the 1st level Emperor stage fused profundity. I'm still far from comprehending the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity. Duan Lingtian quickly calmed down. However, he did not calm down for too long, because he thought of something else. If I integrate the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity into my body, and open up Saint veins, the effect will definitely be better. I wonder how many Saint veins I'll be able to open up when I break through to the mortal shedding stage. I'm really looking forward to it. Duan Lingtian still remembered what Xuan'ai had told him before. According to Xuan'ai, the martial and Dao cultivators from the mortal continent had a much stronger foundation than the natives of the Dao martial saint land. Their cultivation base could be said to have been accumulated over time. Once they broke through to the mortal shedding stage, it would be unstoppable. For months, after asking Hualao and learning that he had cultivated for 4 months, Duan Lingtian could not help but jolt awake. It's been so long? I wonder if Kerr and Little Fair have woken up. 4 months in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is 2 months outside. Hualao, who was sitting cross-legged nearby, reminded Duan Lingtian, when he saw he was so anxious that he stood up. I almost forgot. Duan Lingtian smiled awkwardly. Only now did he remember that the time in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was different from the time outside. 2 days in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was 1 day outside. Duan Lingtian thought about the 2 girls and left the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda with just a thought. Duan Lingtian shook his head when he realized Kerr, Li Fei, and Sima still had not woken up. I'm afraid we'll have to wait a little longer with their current condition. After looking down at the canyon for a while, he noticed Duan Lingtian was cultivating with his eyes closed. Duan Lingtian did not disturb him, and returned to the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Hualao, wake me up in half a year. Duan Lingtian greeted Hualao before he sat cross-legged, and began to cultivate. Through his observation earlier, Duan Lingtian was able to discern that the 2 little girls still needed a period of time before they would wake up. Moreover, the period of time that they would wake up after a period of time was only the first time they woke up. He had already told them about it. After they woke up for the first time, they would familiarize themselves with the benefits that the word sword brought them. After that, they could begin to accumulate the sword Dao contained in the word sword in their minds. They would spend time to slowly comprehend it in the future. Just like him earlier, when their minds were filled with the sword Dao from the word sword, he would bring them away. It was the same for Sima as well. He had already informed them beforehand. Therefore, according to Duan Lingtian's estimation, the 3 of them would need at least a few months to complete the first 2 steps. Duan Lingtian immersed himself in his cultivation, and fully immersed himself in comprehending the fused profundity. The Emperor stage nature profundity fragments in his hand were being consumed rapidly. Every 10 days to half a month, there would be an Emperor stage profundity fragment that would shatter. If someone were to see this, they would definitely feel heartache, and even scold Duan Lingtian for being a wastrel. However, all of this was nothing to Duan Lingtian. Previously, on Half Moon Island, the former island master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong, had used his devil technique to absorb the vital essence of 85 powerhouses in their prime and turned them into dried corpses. Among the 85 powerhouses in their prime, almost half of them were Emperor stage powerhouses who had nurtured Emperor stage profundity fragments. After they died, the profundity fragments in their bodies were all in Duan Lingtian's hands. Therefore, Duan Lingtian could still bear this kind of consumption. If it was someone else, they would have a headache. The path of comprehending the fused profundity was like a bottomless pit. Initially, one Emperor stage nature profundity fragment would shatter every half a month. Later on, it would shatter every 10 days. Later on, it would shatter every 7 to 8 days. Then it would shatter every 5 to 6 days. When one Emperor Stage Nature Profundity fragment shattered every 3 days, Hualao woke Duan Lingtian up. It's been half a year already? Duan Lingtian regained his senses and had a surprised expression on his face. In his mind, it felt as though only a few days had passed. It's been 3 months outside. Hualao reminded him. It's been 3 months. It should be about time. Duan Lingtian smiled and left the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda again. This time, he shrunk the pagoda and stuffed it into his ears before he descended from the sky. He was in a good mood. After half a year of comprehension, his fused profundity had improved by another 2 steps. He had successfully comprehended the 3rd-level Emperor Stage fused profundity. They're about to wake up. Duan Lingtian glanced at Ke, Li Fei and Sima. As someone who had experienced this before, he could easily tell that their minds were about to be filled with sword Dao comprehension from the word sword. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian stepped into the air. A wave of air swept out soundlessly as he shot up into the sky like a rocket. He did not know how high he had reached when a 5-colored flame suddenly burst out of Duan Lingtian's body. It emitted a majestic and vast aura. It was the fused profundity. As the 5-colored flame rose, the heaven and earth energy stirred above Duan Lingtian's head and made a series of muffled sounds. Soon after, the heaven and earth phenomenon formed. There was a total of 40 silhouettes of ancient black dragons spiraling down. They were lifelike and had a majestic aura. With the strength I can display now, even without using the Saint-grade martial tactic, I can easily defeat a powerhouse at the peak of the Emperor Wu stage, who hasn't cultivated the Saint-grade martial tactic. Duan Lingtian's eyes gleamed as he thought to himself, if I use the Saint-grade martial tactic, I'm almost invincible among those below the mortal shedding stage. Duan Lingtian was very confident about this. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was being conservative. He was only almost invincible. In his opinion, unless there was a powerhouse at the peak of the Emperor Wu stage, who had cultivated the human rank prominent Saint-grade martial tactic technique to an extremely high level, it was impossible for anyone to be a match for him. It was almost impossible for a powerhouse at the peak of the Emperor Wu stage to meet this condition. What a magical world. No, I should say it's a magical planet. Only the heaven and earth energy on the cloud continent and the surrounding seas can form the heaven and earth phenomenon. No matter how powerful one is, the heaven and earth energy won't form the heaven and earth phenomenon when they leave the cloud continent's surrounding areas and arrive at the sea. Duan Lingtian exclaimed, disregarding everything else. Just this point alone made him feel that it was very magical. It was just as Duan Lingtian had expected. A few days later, Ke, Little Fei and Sima Changfeng woke up one after another. Their abilities had more or less been elevated. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was also preparing to bring them back to the inner land of the cloud continent to the Lingtian sect's new estate. The new estate. Duan Lingtian had only heard about it from Xuanai. He had not been there before. Uncle Feng, you should leave with us too. Duan Lingtian called out to Feng Wu Dao. I'm going to move the Lingtian sect to the overseas Saint Island, Half Moon Island. The cultivation environment there is better. Feng Wu Dao had heard about Duan Lingtian's achievements in the inner land of the cloud continent. He also knew that the cultivation environment on Half Moon Island was great. Therefore, he agreed to leave with Duan Lingtian. However, if I leave, who's going to guard this canyon? Second Tiger isn't here either. Chapter 1350. Uncle Feng, you don't have to worry about that. Duan Lingtian smiled. Under Feng Wu Dao's puzzled gaze, Duan Lingtian, who was hovering in the air above the canyon, set up an inscription formation that covered the entire canyon. Currently, Duan Lingtian was already at the 9th level Emperor Wu stage. His spiritual energy had also reached the 9th level Emperor Wu stage. An inscription formation that was set up with such spiritual energy was, naturally, extremely powerful. Most importantly, Duan Lingtian placed 10 saint stones as the energy source of the inscription formation. Unless it's someone who's at the 7th level Emperor Wu stage or above, It's impossible for anyone else to break this inscription formation. Duan Lingtian thought to himself after he finished setting up the inscription formation. What a joke! This was an inscription formation that he had set up with 10 saint stones. What was a saint stone? It was a good item that could help Emperor Wu powerhouses to raise their cultivation base rapidly. It was similar to origin stones, but it was not something that origin stones could compare to. The reason Duan Lingtian was so generous was not because he was the island master of Half Moon Island and would be able to obtain some saint stones from the supreme grade origin stone mine on Half Moon Island every once in a while. It was because Xuanai had given him many saint stones. According to Xuanai, saint stones were very common in the Dao martial saint land. Although they were common, they were not that easy to obtain. For example, it was extremely difficult for some mortal stage martial and Dao cultivators who did not have any background to obtain a saint stone. Xuanai, on the other hand, had a powerful force behind her, so it was only natural that she had many saint stones in her hands. The saint stones that Xuanai had given him amounted to more than 1,000 pieces. The quality was much better than what he originally had. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian did not even bat an eyelid when he took out 10 saint stones to set up the inscription formation. According to the words of the earth in his past life, he was being willful because he was rich. After setting up the inscription formation, Duan Lingtian and the others left the canyon. The group of 4 became a group of 5. After allowing the 4 of them to cultivate by themselves, Duan Lingtian led them forward, and they quickly left the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom and entered the Darkstone Empire. They continued to head north and entered the Dark Han Dynasty. After arriving at the Dark Han Dynasty, Duan Lingtian made a trip to the Imperial City. Originally, he wanted to ask Zhang Shouyong if he was interested in leaving with him. However, when he arrived at the Zhang clan in the Imperial City, he was told that Zhang Shouyong and his wife had already left the Imperial City last year. I wonder where big brother Zhang went. Duan Lingtian sighed in his heart. Towards Zhang Shouyong, he had always been grateful, not for anything else, but for saving his life back then. Even now he didn't dare to forget that kindness. I can only wait until the next time I come back and see if I can see big brother Zhang. Right now, I'm going to the Blade Sect. Duan Lingtian thought in his heart and had a plan. The Blade Sect was a third-rate force in the southern area of the northern desert. It was also the sect that Duan Lingtian's childhood friend, Su Li, had joined. He was going to the Blade Sect for Su Li. However, when he arrived at the Blade Sect, he found out that Su Li had followed Jian Shisan and left the Blade Sect as soon as he left. Why didn't they come looking for me? When he recalled the unhappiness in the Blade Sect and the promise he made to Su Li and his disciple before he left, Duan Lingtian could not help but smile wryly. Su Li and Jian Shisan were the same as Zhang Shouyong. He did not know where they went. For this reason, Duan Lingtian could only bring the 4 of them back to the inner land of the Cloud Continent. I've spent 10 months in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Outside it's been 5 months. Including the other time, it's been 6 months since I returned to the Cloud Continent. After returning to the inner land, Duan Lingtian suddenly had a thought. 6 months. I wonder how they found the materials I asked for. The materials he asked for were the materials needed to repair the 2nd level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. After mobilizing more than half of the humans and demon beasts on the Cloud Continent to search for the materials, Duan Lingtian really wanted to know how the results were after 6 months. With Duan Lingtian's speed, he soon arrived at the Lingtian sect's new residence, even though he was only bringing 6 people with him. Originally, he brought 4 people with him. However, when he passed by the Lingtian sect's original residence, he brought Xiong Quan and the Gold Thug along. Xiong Quan and the Gold Thug were unwilling to leave in the past because they wanted to wait for Duan Lingtian to return. Now that Duan Lingtian had returned, they were naturally willing to leave. When Duan Lingtian and the group of 7 returned to the Lingtian sect, regardless of whether it was Han Shu and I, Little Gold, Little Black, or Little White, all of them had already returned from outside. In 6 months, They had already completed the task that Duan Lingtian had asked them to do. After returning to the Lingtian sect again, Duan Lingtian's heart jolted when he saw the new surroundings. After a long while he could not help but sigh. There was a rich high-grade origin stone reserve buried under the Lingtian sect's new residence. In the entire Cloud Continent, such a cultivation environment was considered pretty good. Apart from the two great ancient clans' residences on the Cloud Continent, there was no other place that could compare to this. Moreover, there was a supreme-grade origin stone reserve buried under the two great ancient clans' residences. Sect Leader. Not long after Duan Lingtian returned, Han Xuanai ordered all the 7-Star Sword Sect's senior officials and disciples who were guarding the residence to meet Duan Lingtian, the real sect leader of the Lingtian sect. She was only the acting sect leader. Now that Duan Lingtian had returned, she returned the Lingtian sect to Duan Lingtian. Zhang San, Luoping, and all of you, long time no see. A smile appeared on Duan Lingtian's face as he looked at the few familiar faces in front of him. Other than Zhang San and Luoping, the two former vice-sect leaders, there were also familiar faces like Chen Xiaoshui, Lu Bai, the Nangong twins, and the others. Sect leader. Zhang San and Luoping were slightly excited when they saw Duan Lingtian again. Chen Xiaoshui, Lu Bai, and the others were no exception, and all of them were extremely excited. Although they had long since found out that Duan Lingtian was safe and sound from Nangong brothers, when they really saw Duan Lingtian safe and sound, they still could not help but feel slightly excited in their hearts. Duan Lingtian was not surprised that only a few familiar faces remained, because Xuanai had long since mentioned this matter to him. At that time, because the Han clan's Han Jing had arrived at the Lingtian sect, facing Han Jing's formidable strength, the Lingtian sect was on the verge of annihilation. At that time, besides these few familiar faces, everyone else had betrayed him. You're Li Si. Duan Lingtian looked at the unfamiliar face next to Zhang San. It was not difficult for him to guess his identity. Li Si was the only person who had just joined the Lingtian sect not long ago, when the Lingtian sect was on the verge of annihilation, but did not betray the sect. He was also Zhang San's friend. Sect leader. When Li Si saw Duan Lingtian taking the initiative to greet him, a smile bloomed on his face. He felt that his choice back then was so wise. Sometimes being unafraid of death was not necessarily a bad thing. After he gave the order and dismissed all the senior officials and disciples of the Lingtian sect, Duan Lingtian looked at Han Xuanai and asked, Xuanai, how many of the materials that I wanted have been found? A lot. Han Xuanai said with a smile. At the same time, she handed a spatial ring to Duan Lingtian. The materials that were handed over are all in here. Now, no matter if it's humans or demons, they've practically turned the inner land of the Cloud Continent upside down, just to help brother Duan Lingtian look for the materials. There will be a lot of materials that will be delivered to your door later. Han Xuanai finished in one breath. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he heard this. Just as Duan Lingtian had thought earlier, the demon beasts on the Cloud Continent, who handed over the most materials, and were the most diligent, were the demon beasts on the Cloud Continent. In this aspect, they had a natural advantage. Duan Lingtian was very satisfied with this. After sending the materials in his hand into the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, and into Hua Lao's hands, Duan Lingtian left the Lingtian sect, and went to see Demon Emperor Man Wu. This is what you deserve. Duan Lingtian gave a saint stone to Demon Emperor Man Wu. As long as you're not a short-sighted person, and as long as the demon beasts collect more materials, I'll still give you the reward you deserve. Before Duan Lingtian left, he said to Demon Emperor Man Wu meaningfully. Demon Emperor Man Wu's eyes lit up when he heard this. He held the saint stone tightly in his hand, and began to issue orders to his direct disciples. They continued to mobilize the demon beasts on the inner land of the Cloud Continent to search for the various materials that Duan Lingtian needed. For this he even made a promise. As long as the demon beasts handed over a lot of materials, regardless of their cultivation base, they would have a chance to become his disciple. Although they would only become the disciple with the lowest status under Demon Emperor Man Wu's command, countless demon beasts would still go crazy over it. Gradually, apart from the inner land, the demon beasts on the outer land also began to search for the materials that Duan Lingtian needed. Apart from the demon beasts who found a lot of materials, the human martial artists also found a lot of materials. For the next period of time, Duan Lingtian stayed in the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda and seriously comprehended the fused profundity. His fused profundity was improving every second. Kerr and Li Fei sat cross-legged on both sides of him, causing the atmosphere to become more peaceful. A few days ago, in order to improve the two girls' strength as soon as possible, he revealed the wonders of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda to them. At the same time, he brought them into the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. The two girls were shocked by the wonders of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda for a long time. After a long time, they gradually calmed down. To them, the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was just too shocking. They could not compare to Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian had heard various versions of ancient myths and legends in his past life. He had long known about the existence of the celestial supreme treasure, the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Therefore, when he first heard about the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda's ability, he quickly calmed down. When Kerr and Little Fair's cultivation base has improved a little more, and when the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is repaired, I'll bring them to the Dao Martial Saint Land. Duan Lingtian had made up his mind. This was also the reason he brought the two girls into the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda to cultivate. Chapter 1351. Apart from comprehending the fused profundity in the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda and transporting materials into the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, in the remaining time, Duan Lingtian began to move the Lingtian sect. The Lingtian sect was now the #1 sect on the Cloud Continent. Due to Han Xuanai, the Lingtian sect had a transcendent status on the Cloud Continent. Even the two great ancient clans did not dare to offend them. Therefore, the migration of the Lingtian sect went smoothly. Apart from Qing Xian's Emperor Wu, Demon Emperor Man Wu, and a group of Emperor Wu and Demon Emperors who came to help, the two great ancient clans also sent powerhouses to help. At this moment, Qing Xian's Emperor Wu, Demon Emperor Man Wu, and the rest of the famous Emperor Wu and Demon Emperors on the Cloud Continent finally realized that there were many existences that were more powerful than them in the two great ancient clans. These existences were so powerful that they could defeat or even kill them with just one blow. There were many people in the Lingtian sect. Even with the help of a group of Emperor Wu and Demon Emperors, they still had to make 2 trips to bring everyone to Half Moon Island. It's fortunate that there are so many people to help. Otherwise, with just me, Xuanai, Little Gold, Little White, and Little Black, I don't know how long it would take to move the people from the Lingtian sect to Half Moon Island. After most of the people from the Lingtian sect had been moved and were taken over by the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island, Duan Lingtian stood in the sky above the Lingtian Peak and muttered to himself. The Lingtian Peak beneath his feet was the new residence of the Lingtian sect on the Cloud Continent. However, it had become an old residence now. Apart from Duan Lingtian and a few people around him, only some of the elders from the Lingtian sect had not left the Lingtian Peak. These elders from the Lingtian sect were in charge of receiving the materials sent from all over the Cloud Continent to repair the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. As time went by, the materials from all over the Cloud Continent decreased. In the end, there was nothing left. Even if a large number of human martial artists and demon beasts on Cloud Continent dug 3 feet into the ground to search, they still could not find the materials needed to repair the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Hualao, how much more do you need? Without the materials, Duan Lingtian also felt a headache. He couldn't help but ask Hualao. The second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is already 50% repaired. If I have more materials, I'll be able to repair it completely. Hualao said. Once it's fully repaired, you'll be able to ascend to the second level and obtain the Jasper Celestial Sword. You'll also be able to cultivate on it. This 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is really a bottomless pit. Even with so many materials, only half of the second level has been repaired. This was only the second level. There were still 5 more levels to go. Just thinking about it gives me a headache. Duan Lingtian smiled bitterly. Currently, the materials needed to repair the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda could no longer be found on Cloud Continent. It can't be helped. The materials you sent in are the lowest grade of the materials I told you about. Naturally, I'll need a lot of these materials. Hualao said. If it's the highest grade materials I told you about, you'll only need one of each to completely repair the second level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Hualao, the materials you mentioned, not only me, but even Xuanai has never heard of them. Where do you want me to find them for you? Duan Lingtian smiled bitterly. Han Xuanai was the young miss of a powerful force in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Her knowledge was not something he could compare to. However, even then, she had never heard of the materials Hualao mentioned. If even Xuanai did not know about them, it was even more impossible for him to know about them. There aren't any of those materials on this planet? Hualao frowned. That shouldn't be the case. The materials I mentioned were based on the standards of planet Yen Huang in the past. Even the highest grade materials can be collected in the past on planet Yen Huang as long as one is willing. Upon hearing this, Duan Lingtian could not help but smile wryly. Naturally he knew. The planet Yen Huang of the past, that Elder Hu mentioned, was the Earth that only existed in ancient myths and legends a long time ago. At that time, humans had just been born. This planet might not have those materials. After all, it's impossible for Xuanai to know all the materials on this planet. Duan Lingtian shook his head. Then Duan Lingtian learned from Hualao. More than 80% of the materials collected on Cloud Continent to repair the second level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda could not be used to repair the third level, because those materials were too low grade. According to Hualao, Duan Lingtian divided the materials that Hualao mentioned into 5 levels. The 5 levels were elementary, intermediate, 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 advanced, and advanced. The best materials collected on Cloud Continent were intermediate, intermediate, and elementary materials. However, most of them were elementary materials. Elementary materials were useless in repairing the third level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. At the very least, intermediate and elementary materials were needed. At this rate, I'm afraid it'll take a long time before the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is completely repaired. When Duan Lingtian thought of this, he felt powerless. After some time, Han Xuanai returned from the overseas Saint Island, Half Moon Island. At the same time, she brought back the materials that the 4 overseas Saint Islands had collected. Compared to the materials collected on Cloud Continent, the materials that Han Xuanai brought back could be said to be very little. However, since most of them were intermediate, intermediate, and elementary materials, and a few intermediate materials, the second level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was repaired by another 30% on top of the 50% that it had already repaired. Since then, the second level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was successfully repaired by 80%. I've turned the Cloud Continent and the 4 overseas Saint Islands upside down, but the second level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is only 80% repaired. Duan Lingtian had a wry smile on his face. If you can get the dragon pearl from the little devil dragon, you'll be able to repair the remaining 20% immediately. Hualao said to Duan Lingtian. Hualao, why didn't you say so earlier? Look at him now, he's gone. Duan Lingtian smiled wryly. Naturally, he knew the little devil dragon that Hualao mentioned was Di Yong. Di Yong's true form was a 5-clawed devil dragon, the top existence among the 5-clawed divine dragons. I'm afraid he won't be willing to give you the dragon pearl if he hasn't left. Hualao said. Why? Duan Lingtian asked. After Hualao's explanation, Duan Lingtian finally understood. As it turned out, every dragon only had 1 dragon pearl. A dragon's dragon pearl was equivalent to a demon beast's inner core. The only difference was the dragon pearl was innate. Once a dragon's dragon pearl was taken, it would die as well. Therefore, there was only one way to take a dragon's dragon pearl, and that was to kill it. Kill a 5-clawed devil dragon? Duan Lingtian smiled wryly. Indeed, just as Hua Lao said, even if Wang Ba possessed Di Yong, who was reborn, he would not be able to obtain the dragon pearl. Although he could use the devil seal tablet to kill Di Yong, he could not bring himself to do it. No matter what, Di Yong had saved his life before, even though he had his own motives. Although he had ulterior motives, it was an indisputable fact that Di Yong had saved his life. Previously, he had used the devil seal tablet for the 3rd time in Lost Stone Forest. If it was not for Di Yong, he would have been killed. However, Duan Lingtian was still surprised. A 5-clawed divine dragon's dragon pearl was actually comparable to the few high-grade materials that Hua Lao had mentioned. If that's the case, the few high-grade materials that Hua Lao mentioned are treasures on the same level as a 5-clawed divine dragon's dragon pearl? Duan Lingtian's heart sank when he thought of this. Xuanai had told him about this before. Even among the dragons in the Dao Martial Saint Land, there were not many 5-clawed divine dragons. There were only 9 of them. In other words, in the Dao Martial Saint Land, there were at most 9 5-clawed divine dragons' dragon pearls at the same time. It seems like it'll be a long journey to repair the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. I'm afraid I'll only be able to repair the 2nd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda after I arrive at the Dao Martial Saint Land. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Since he could no longer find the materials needed to repair the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda on the Cloud Continent, Duan Lingtian was ready to leave. When the 2 girls woke up from their cultivation, Duan Lingtian brought them out of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Together with Han Shu and I, he brought the remaining elders from the Lingtian sect and left the Cloud Continent for the overseas Saint Island, Half Moon Island. Before the 2 girls woke up, Duan Lingtian visited the group of Emperor Wu and Demon Emperors one by one. Apart from the powerhouses from the 2 great ancient clans, he also gave out saint stones one by one. Duan Lingtian was never one to owe favors. As for the 2 great ancient clans, Duan Lingtian asked Han Shu and I to thank them on his behalf. After returning to Half Moon Island, Duan Lingtian gathered all the people from the Lingtian sect and Half Moon Island. At the same time, he also officially allowed the senior officials and disciples of Half Moon Island, led by the 3 Vice Island Masters, to join the Lingtian sect. The 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island, who were previously intimidated by Duan Lingtian's powerful strength, did not dare to have any objections. Since they did not dare to have any objections, their subordinates were even more so. From then on, the Lingtian sect settled down on Half Moon Island. Since the Lingtian sect had moved to Half Moon Island, the buildings in the central area of Half Moon Island naturally had to be changed. Under Duan Lingtian's order, all the old buildings were overturned and new buildings were erected one after another. The Lingtian sect's base on Half Moon Island was soon built. It only took half a year to complete all of this. Looking down at the majestic sect's base under his feet, Duan Lingtian sighed in his heart. If it was on Earth in my past life, such a huge project would have taken at least 8 to 10 years to complete. But in this place, it only took half a year to complete everything inside and out. Duan Lingtian's thoughts became active when the Lingtian sect's new base was completed. It's time to leave, Duan Lingtian muttered to himself. Leave Half Moon Island and head to the Dao Martial Saint Land. Whether it was to return to Earth or to look for his parents, he had to go to the Dao Martial Saint Land. Chapter 1352. Just as Duan Lingtian was about to leave Half Moon Island with the 2 girls and Han Shu and I to the Dao Martial Saint Land, after making all the arrangements, Duan Lingtian suddenly spoke up. Scoundrel, I want to stay. Li Fei gritted her teeth and said to Duan Lingtian hesitantly, What's wrong? You don't want to go to the Dao Martial Saint Land? Duan Lingtian asked in confusion. There are many powerhouses in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Let alone me, even if you go there, it'll be dangerous. I don't want to be a burden to you. Li Fei took a deep breath and said slowly. Moreover, the Ling Tian sect can't be without a leader. I want to stay and help you take care of the Ling Tian sect. She did not want to be separated from her man, not even for a second. However, she still tried her best to stay rational. That was why she was able to say those ambiguous words. Young master, I want to stay as well. Before Duan Lingtian could reply to Li Fei, Kerr chimed in. Just like Li Fei, she did not want to be a burden to Duan Lingtian. She did not want to be a burden to Duan Lingtian, whether it was Kerr or Li Fei. At this moment, all of them recognized the fact that if they wanted to possess strength that surpassed Duan Lingtian and help him, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Therefore, they decided to stay on Half Moon Island and take care of the Ling Tian sect for Duan Lingtian. This way, they could share the burden with their man. Sister Fei or Sister Kerr. Actually, you don't have to do this. If you're worried about being a burden to Brother Ling Tian, you can come to my house. It's very safe there. The moment Kerr's words left her mouth, Han Xuanai said to the two girls, Xuanai, we know you mean well. However, what's the difference between staying at your house and staying at Half Moon Island? Moreover, I can help take care of the Ling Tian sect if I stay on Half Moon Island. Li Fei said with a smile, but in the depths of her eyes, there was a glimmer of reluctance. That's right. Moreover, Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White won't be leaving for the time being, so they can accompany us. Kerr nodded. Both girls said that they wanted to stay, but Duan Lingtian was naturally unwilling. Kerr, Little Fair, didn't you say that you would never be separated from me again? Scoundrel, the situation is different this time. Moreover, Kerr and I are on Half Moon Island. If you want to come back, you can visit us anytime. Li Fei shook her head and said. Kerr nodded. In the end, Duan Lingtian was truly unable to persuade the two stubborn little girls, so he could only compromise. However, before he left, he lingered with the two girls for a long time. During this process, Duan Lingtian left a seed of love in each of their bodies at their request. After 10 months, it would blossom and bear fruit. When the children are born, I'll definitely rush back. When they parted, Duan Lingtian promised the two girls. Scoundrel, you don't have to worry about Kerr and I when we reach the Dao Martial Saint Land. We'll take good care of ourselves. With Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White around, we'll be very safe. Li Fei said. Young master, Sister Fei and I will wait for your return. Kerr's autumn eyes gleamed as she said to Duan Lingtian softly. Little Gold, Little Black, Little White. I'll leave your Sister Kerr and Sister Fei to you. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and reluctantly shifted his gaze from the two little girls to the three little fellows at the side as he spoke with a serious expression. Brother, don't worry. With me around, I'll definitely take good care of Sister Kerr and Sister Fei. The golden-clad little girl said confidently to Duan Lingtian. That's right, brother. With Little White and me around, we'll definitely not let anything happen to Sister Kerr and Sister Fei. Little Black said. I believe in all of you. In fact, with his current speed, it would only take him a few days to return to Cloud Continent from Half Moon Island. However, it would take him half a month to reach the Dao Martial Saint Land. Brother Lingtian, when you parted ways with Sister Kerr and Sister Fei, you said you'd come back when the children are born. Don't tell me they're pregnant. Han Xuanai asked curiously as she blinked her mischievous eyes. That's right. They'll be born in 10 months. Duan Lingtian nodded as a blissful smile appeared on his face. 10 months. When Han Xuanai heard Duan Lingtian's words, she smiled and said, Brother Lingtian, who told you that your children will be born in 10 months? Isn't it always 10 months? It's common sense to be pregnant for 10 months. Duan Lingtian said matter-of-factly. Xuanai, you've never given birth before, so you don't understand. I've never given birth before, so I don't understand? Brother Lingtian, do you mean you've given birth before, so you understand? Han Xuanai's mischievous eyes turned as she sized Duan Lingtian up from head to toe as she teased. You little girl. Even if I've never eaten pork, I've seen pigs run before. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. Big Brother Lingtian, based on what you said about Big Sister Kerr and Big Sister Fei being pregnant for 10 months, It really shows that you've never seen a pig run before. When Han Shuanai heard Duan Lingtian's words, the smile on her face widened as she said matter-of-factly, "Xuanai, what are you trying to say?" Duan Lingtian frowned as he asked in bewilderment, and the smile on his face vanished. "Brother Lingtian, the 10 months of pregnancy you spoke of is only for the union of people below the congenital stage. If a man and a woman are both existences at the congenital stage, or above, then their child would take at least a year to be born." Han Shuanai explained, "The child of a man and woman that have just broken through to the congenital stage, or in other words, a man and woman with a cultivation at the void-prying stage, would be born in a year. In the future, the higher the cultivation of a man and woman, the later the child they conceive would be born. But the later the child is born, the more outstanding it is. Supposedly, the reason they're born later is because they have to absorb the congenital origin energy within their mother's body. The later the child is born, the higher its natural talent." Han Shuanai continued, "With Brother Ling Tian's cultivation, Sister Ker's and Sister Feier's cultivation, it's impossible for your child to be born without 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years? Duan Lingtian was dumbstruck when he heard Han Shuanai's words. He'd only heard of 10 months of pregnancy, but never had he imagined that there would be 3 to 5 years of pregnancy. Was that still a human? "Xuanai, how do you know all this?" Duan Lingtian looked at Han Shuanai with a strange gaze as he asked. He was truly unable to wrap his head around how this little girl even knew all this. "Brother Lingtian, didn't you say earlier? Even if you haven't eaten pork, you've still seen pigs run." Han Shuanai returned Duan Lingtian's words to him, causing Duan Lingtian to be unable to help but laugh bitterly. In the end, he couldn't help but confirm. "Xuanai, are you sure what you said is true?" Bang! 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 Just as Han Shuanai was about to reply to Duan Lingtian again, a loud sound rang out and interrupted her. It was the calm surface of the sea beneath her and Duan Lingtian's feet that had exploded without any warning, causing seawater to splash up along with it. This scene was as though a huge rock had been thrown into the surface of the sea. Before Duan Lingtian and Han Shuanai could react, the turbulent surface of the sea suddenly twisted and formed an extremely powerful suction force. The suction force shot up into the sky and enveloped Duan Lingtian and Han Shuanai in the blink of an eye. For a moment, Duan Lingtian only felt an unparalleled force enveloping his body and dragging him into the sea. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.